Hey there, want to make your voice heard at a Board of Supervisors meeting? We're all ears. Here's how you can get involved. First, hop online and look at the agendas. This will give you the scoop on what's coming up before the board. Each agenda item includes a brief description of the issue, the recommendations, and potential impacts. If you need more detail, check out the detailed reports online. Those are called board letters. Then, decide if you want to speak at Tuesday's general legislative session or Wednesday's land use session. You'll have 3 opportunities to have your say. Let's start with non-agenda public comment. This is your chance to talk about things that aren't on the agenda, but try and keep your topic related to county government. For non-agenda public comments, you can speak at either the Tuesday or Wednesday session, but not both. So pick your day accordingly. And keep in mind, the board can't act on the spot. They'll refer your comments to the Chief Administrative Officer, who will look into the issue. Last thing, the board will hear from the first 10 speakers, 5 in person and 5 by phone at the beginning of the session. Then all the remaining speakers will get their chance to speak after the discussion items. During the consent agenda, the board handles a bunch of routine items with 1 vote. If you want to comment on an item, keep it simple. For example, I'm John Doe speaking on item 5, and I agree with approving the contract. Discussion items are the main event where the board debates before making a decision. Want to speak at one of the meetings? It's really easy. Just hop online and fill out a quick request form at publiccomment.sandiegocounty.gov. Pick the meeting you're interested in, hit the register button, then fill in your details. Make sure to include a phone number if you plan on speaking by phone. Prefer speaking at the podium in the board chamber? No problem. Just pick the in-person option. After that, just check off the agenda items you want to talk about and let them know you're for, against, or neutral on them. Hit register and you're good to go. A confirmation email will land in your inbox to wrap it up. If you're speaking by phone, the email will include the instructions for how to dial in. Be sure to submit your request early. Once public comment begins on the agenda item, we can't take any more requests to speak. And if you have documents, hand them to the deputy clerk when it's your turn to speak at the podium. Now, you get 2 minutes to speak, but if lots of people want to talk, it might get cut to 1 minute. So, you might want to consider writing 2 sets of comments, one for 2 minutes, another one for 1. That way, if time's cut, you won't be scrambling. There's also a countdown clock at the podium to keep you on track. Once you're at the podium, stay on topic. Stick to the current agenda item. If you stray off topic, you might get a gentle nudge to get back to the point. Keep your comments related to the agenda item's recommendations because that's what the board is relying on to make a decision. Also, speak directly to the board. They're the ones making the decision. When your time's up, it's up. Overstaying might mean getting muted or even asked to leave. Now for some ground rules. For safety, keep aisles and doorways clear. If there isn't a seat, head across the hall to room 302 or the 4th floor balcony to watch the meeting. Respect is huge. Everyone should feel heard. That means you, other speakers, and the Board of Supervisors. Disruptive behavior gets 1 warning, and after that, a deputy sheriff might show you the door. So let's keep it respectful. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. Remember, we're all here to make a difference.
Okay, we now call the April 22nd, 2026 San Diego County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Andrew, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Aguirre.
Here.
Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
And Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here. Okay. We now move on to the discussion item 17, which was continued, tabled from yesterday. So hopefully now that everyone's had a good night's sleep, we can move efficiently through this item. Supervisor Anderson, do you want to say a couple words? I'm also happy to, I also passed out a significantly, my Supervisor Desmond, you might have noticed, is less than 25 words.
Yes, thank you.
Kind of proposal of what I was trying to say yesterday. So that was really it. So I don't know, Supervisor Anderson, do you want to kind of kick us off?
Yeah, I think it's a fresh crowd this morning. So just to bring people up to speed, I'm hoping to simplify the discussion on this item this morning. Board Policy A74, which is 18 pages long, lays out the rules for county boards, commissions, and committees. But this policy does not provide rules on how committees or subcommittees, meetings, or any other designated that don't meet the Brown Act, how they're conducted. And I want to simply bring more transparency to these meetings, and I'm recommending the board adopt simple steps just should be taken for ad hoc subcommittees or any committee that we deem that doesn't fall under the current Brown Act rules. And this only addresses the transparency that in how the public would access it. Having said that, I see that we have an updated sheet. Perhaps we could put this on the screen, and I'd like to make a motion in support of this that has been updated. Essentially, it's everything I proposed yesterday except for item B, but the issues that I had concerning item B are covered in item C, which say that it requires all subcommittee meetings to include presentations to the subcommittee to be streamed live, recorded, and posted so the public can view them in real time in following the meeting. So I'm good with this language, and I'm respectfully requesting a second.
I'm happy to second. And I just want to say, I think, and let me just put it, say my intent here. I think I was really convinced by the argument that, if we're having speakers come in, presentations being made, a lot of good analysis, that should be recorded for posterity. It should be available for the public. I think the only flag I would note, and I'm sure we'll be able to sort of address this with whatever county council comes back, so we don't need to kind of get in the weeds now. I just want to make sure we don't over define subcommittee meetings so that anytime two supervisors talk, all of a sudden you have to have an agendized meeting. So I think that was my only concern, but that seems unlikely. So I know that wasn't your intent, but as long as we're really just focused on kind of these, making sure that all the good work we're doing is available for the public to be able to have an opinion on, I think that makes sense. Any other comments? Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you. I appreciate the clarity and brevity of the amendment. So I'm going to muddy it. I'd like to also have item K to remove ad hoc subcommittee's authority for purchasing and contracting.
I'm fine with that. Are you saying that without board approval?
Yes.
Full board approval?
Yes.
Where is that?
So they'd have to come back.
He wants to
just
amend
be K.
that.
I didn't put it out. I just remove ad hoc subcommittee's authority for purchasing and contracting.
I mean, this is where, so Supervisor Desmond, this is where we're getting into why I was trying to yesterday do a broader conversation, because I do think there's a lot of value to talking about that. What are the authorities of these committees? What's the authority of an ad hoc? What's the authority of a committee? When does it get delegated? I think that's a very important conversation for us to have. But if we're not going to talk about all those pieces, if we're really just focused on transparency, I'm not comfortable with kind of having that, tacking that on to a transparency measure. I'm kind of either let's do the whole enchilada, Or let's just focus on what Supervisor Anderson brought, which is about transparency?
Well, you did add some options and pros and cons here to what he brought forward. This is very simple, to remove the authorities for purchasing
But it's a
and
different
contracting.
topic. It's a different topic.
No, it's the same topic. It's ad hoc subcommittees.
It's not transparency. It's a different topic. We're talking about, this proposal is about transparency of the ad hoc subcommittees. It's not about authority that's delegated or exercised by various committees. Advisory committees, subcommittees,
Okay, how about
ad
then
hoc committees.
transparency then, that I'll change this to notify the board of any ad hoc subcommittees purchasing or contracting activities. So we'd be notified, so there's your transparency, so that the board is notified of any ad hoc subcommittees purchasing or contracting.
I think it's an aye.
An aye?
Mhm. Make available to the
Yeah,
public
it
subcommittee
is.
consultant information.
Cost. Make available to the public subcommittee. Make available to the public, subcommittees, consultant. Information.
Yeah, so not even just for the board, for everybody.
It's broader
So
than
it's-
what you asked for. It's for the public and not
That's
just
for the
board.
public. I'd
Yeah.
like the board to be notified anytime any ad hoc subcommittee does anything with purchasing or contracting. So make the public and the board?
Sure. Make the public and the board, okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other thoughts from anyone? No. Okay, please vote. We did it yesterday.
Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, moving on to 18. Supervisor Anderson, you're on a roll.
This should be a simple item. By the way, I love that my staff scripted that for me.
They wrote, this should be a simple item.
Well, I just find it humorous. I've heard from several of my constituents who have raised concerns with the use of taxpayer funds by county leaders to hire a private firm conducting poll activities. Look, the bottom line, I'm not going to go through all this. The bottom line is when we are doing third-party polling, where we're hiring contractors to poll, I'd like to add guidelines to that. And it's essentially 3 simple items. Let me pull up my record here. This is going to direct the CAO, County Council, to develop a strategy and process governing the use of county funds for polling and related activities. The second thing it would do is it would go to County Council to review on how we address it. So in the legislature, it's very defined on what you can poll and what you cannot poll. We have no structure like that here. So when you're using a third-party vendor, while we may know the rules, they may not understand the rules of the proper use of public funds. So this would instruct County Council to come back with some rules of engagement. This would not be applicable to our offices sending out an email saying, would you like to have a park or would you rather have a pothole filled? So it would only be engaged if you're using a third party or a contracted poll. And the purpose of all this is simply to add checks and balances to make sure that nobody inadvertently misuses public funds with a push-pull looking to create answers. Instead, it's actually used to poll our constituents on what they wish and not wish. So I don't think it's anything great shakes. All I'm doing is trying to align our policy with what state law requires.
Do you want to make a motion or do you want to go to public?
Oh, no, thank you very much. I would like to make a motion, and I respectfully ask for a second.
Okay. I just noting, and then we can go to public comment. I'd say I would be happy to second with, I have only 2 minor concerns. One was, it wasn't clear to me that it was only third party. It didn't say it enough times. It just said polling. So if we could insert third party in there, because I was a little worried about, like, you know,
Yeah.
you send an email to your list and you say, do you want X or do you want Y? We don't need all this structure. It's really the
Well,
third party.
That's why in my presentation, I tried to be very clear.
But if we could just make
When
sure
I
we're
read
clear.
it after, I had the same concern.
Okay, so maybe we could, I guess I would say if we could amend it to just add the word third party. And then the second thing I would say is when we did the surveys, the community surveys, I've done 3 of them. And it's been enormously helpful to be able to get kind of like a statistical understanding of the district, but no one called it polling. And I really want these guidelines, and I want to make sure they apply to what we're doing. So if we could add community survey or polling, just so that I make sure that we don't end up in some situation where it doesn't, like, you don't get all these guidelines and the support, because I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that it applies kind of broadly. If someone calls it a community survey, if someone calls it polling, it doesn't matter. These are the guidelines that apply.
I think the tipping point is if you're doing it from your office and you're asking your constituents because there's a unique item to that specific community, that would not fall under this. But if you're going to the extent of hiring a polling firm, whether it's a survey or a poll, you're hiring a third party. So I tried to make the focus not on the name, but on the fact that it's a third party, there's a contract, you're paying for the polling, it's not internal.
I think that we're saying, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just saying, I don't want to be in a situation where someone said, where it's not clear that these guidelines apply, because. That's fine. Yeah, I just would like to say.
So you're saying add, no matter how it's called, if you have a third-party contract.
To do a community
This applies.
survey or a poll.
Yeah.
And so that it's clear, whatever you call it, if it's a third-party contract, this applies, basically.
Well, then someone's going to come up with a new name, but I think the key is
The
it's a
third-party contract. Third-party contract, do community survey, poll, or anything else similar.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay. Those are my 2 things. That was all I was worried about. But anyway, let's go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 5 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment in support. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 18 from yesterday's session by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll start with our in-person speaker. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to welcome allegedly Audra.
All right. Welcome, Andrew. I have a hard time believing you guys really want to hear what the public have to say, because people will fill this room and say they don't want like a solar field in their community like Hakamba, and it gets passed anyway. So when you talk about unbiased and uninfluenced opinion, gauging the public's opinion, and what the public wants, these are all nice words, but I feel like you're gaslighting the people when you say that, because you don't even care if the elections are legit. Like, Justin was fired for talking about making sure that we have free and fair elections. We won't look at that, but we'll go ahead and try and make sure that the public opinion and the polling is, good. And then you're hiring third parties, which even just like with a voter fraud, they go to homeless camps and or to people that are undocumented and have them sign up. So, I'm just wondering, first of all, how much is this going to cost? And are you doing it online? Are you going out into the community? Like, are you really going to listen to what the people want? Because you guys are good at telling people one thing and doing the complete opposite. And it's sad, because the people should be able to decide what they want in their community. And if we did, sure as heck wouldn't look like it does. The people would actually spend the money where it needs to go. And not like things like pretending to save the planet, doing environmental reviews, all your behavioral health stuff, making Prop 36 victims, changing children's behaviors, right, when they're being ripped apart from their families, because that's, things that we need to focus on. But who cares if people want that or not? Maybe you should ask that in a poll. I would do that. Ask people if they think that you guys should rip families apart and then sell their kids. I think you'd get a good, honest poll there.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Okay, Consuelo here. So, okay, item 18, establishing a process for conducting county polling activities. Here we go. Okay, it's cute what happens here, right? Yeah. Now you want to establish a process. You want to act like you're trying to keep unethical or illegal activity down. But in reality, this is far from ethical or humane. Like it or not, the truth is this it's all designed to further enable and perpetuate a system that survives on ignorance, confusion, and despair. A system that depends on willful ignorance. So please be transparent. Please do be transparent about what this really does. It continues the perpetuation of that system. Homeless families, wars, pedophilia, mass genocide, human trafficking, child trafficking, big pharma mafia, all of it. All of it feeding a bigger agenda to keep the flow of the clueless, unengaged tax cattle moving straight to the slaughterhouse. The game continues. You do work for the people, and once the so-called tax cattle realize who the people truly are, the game changes. But until then, the illusion of government stays afloat. We are not the people. We are living beings. You all are the people, and you work for yourselves. You work for the system. You work for the globalists, not for the ones paying for it all. Done.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's Truth. So let me understand. Joel had his staff work really hard, I assume, to do a full write-up, and then he threw it away into the trash can. Got it. Okay, I think that says everything we need to know. Maybe you should have read the script. They cost our tax dollars to write, because I don't think it was made clear what exactly the issue is. Was every poll activity third-party before? Was it a performance issue? Was it a cost issue? Just kidding. This board loves wasting tax dollars. Definitely wasn't a cost issue. So here's, again, let's talk about trust, because I think that's the real issue. I do not trust inexperienced, already quit on the city of Compton, Damon Brown, to make a sound legal judgment of any strategy for any county poll, let alone what the board should have for lunch. He's already proven himself incompetent. 2, I will address this further in item 19, but I also don't trust the county with polling questions or contract terms or anyone's personal information and data. I have already personally seen and experienced firsthand personal data being publicly released by county idiots. 3, as of late, we've seen nothing but backroom deals on county contracts, particularly by Tara. Where's the assurance that won't happen again for the millionth time? None, right? This agenda item can't even assure that the polls will be conducted online as well as in person in order to ensure access to the rural communities of the county, let alone that people can actually find the polls on the maze of a county website. So the fact that there's even an agenda item about something as basic as polling, which so many city governments easily do without a really long, boring discussion, just shows the low level this government is operating at, rock bottom corrupt. And that's exactly what I expect from people who fund their campaigns through secret accounts. And for the record, Manuela, I knew what Jim was referring to yesterday. We all did. Maybe you should pay attention during meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Hey, Joel. I'll go ahead and give you credit, even though the last person wanted to criticize you for not reading exactly what your staff wrote. It just shows me that you actually want this to take place. You were expecting it to fail as much as I was because of the majority. But I think enough pressure was put onto them, basically me telling them how they were going to vote on it, that they had to reroute this. Or is this possibly I'll give you full power over the county by allowing you to go through the 14, Agenda 14, as long as you go ahead and apply these 2 rules? Is that what we're talking about? Because we could clearly see that elections influence the way that the union handled the problem regarding term limits. As a matter of fact, when they had an issue with term limits, they had an issue with too much power going to the Board of Supervisors. So now suddenly when we have faulty elections, they want to give you full power. That's telling right there, Damon. Do you understand that? I understand that they brought you in to go ahead and make sure that our elections are secure, right? You beat Trump on the NVRA data. The same data that they said had nothing to do with third-party fraud, but put a protective layer directly over it. Am I wrong? No, I'm absolutely right. In 2010, we did the online registration, moving all that power to the Secretary of State. They go ahead and vet the registration cards that come from that location, and the local representatives have no choice but to accept them. Now, if the fraud is coming from there, is there any possible way that San Diego...
Thank you. We'll hear from the final caller.
All the bold. If you really want to be transparent with the public and keep unethical or illegal polling activity down, why wait 30 days after the poll to publish the contract and scope, polling questions, demographics, and the results? Especially the results. I know some people who can hardly wait to act without thinking and all that, mainly those who want to send off board letters supporting this or that without actually giving solid evidence that the county supports the idea. This is a great start to promoting transparency in knowing who supports all of the stuff that goes around here. The county likes to boast about its transparency, but its actual record behind the scenes is dismal, like not releasing public records or even cleaning them up. Or, for instance, yesterday's discussion about that stupid board, the charter recommendations, that you introduced so many amendments that, you know, the public couldn't follow it. The public wasn't prepared to address them. I mean, it's really an unfair process. So, I mean, how dare you talk about transparency and you don't act transparent at all? So, you know, you're a bunch of hypocritical people. And I use that term advisedly. Thanks.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor and a second with the amendments that I offered, turning it to Chair Pro Tem Aguirre.
Thank you. So I just have a few more questions. I know we already discussed that this wouldn't apply to informal surveys, but I just want to put that on the record very clearly because usually when I have town halls or, you know, Zoom meetings with my constituents, we usually do quick, short, informal surveys on their thoughts on specific issues that are impacting our district. So I just want to be clear that this would only apply when using a polling firm. Is that correct?
I mean, right, that's what we, a third party, like
right.
some kind of third party vendor.
Okay,
basically.
because the board letter also refers to use of county funds. Does that constitute general funds or our district budget?
Well, if it's in a contract with a consultant to do your polling, we're adding transparency to that.
Regardless of where the funding comes, because it's
Correct.
stated county funds.
Correct.
Okay. The other question I have, the board letter states there's no fiscal impact today, but acknowledges there may be future fiscal impacts. And I guess this is more for staff. What do you expect the types of new costs we should anticipate around this? Because it's going to involve legal review hours, consultant delays, administrative work, et cetera.
Supervisor, I think it will be determined as to what the actual implementation cost will be, but I imagine that you're right, there will be some review, and then as well, in terms of posting the materials, how we're going to move forward with that as well.
But you don't have an approximate.
I don't.
So we would be voting without knowing how much this is going to cost
It
us?
has to come back. It won't be implemented. It's a vote to have county council come back. So you could add a friendly amendment to when it comes back with the full policy proposal to have a cost.
I would like a full fiscal analysis, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that something that's okay
Yeah,
with
that's
you?
fine by me.
Okay.
It's a nominal cost. We're talking about a few hours of staff time. We're not talking about overtime to do this. We post stuff to our website all the time, and we've never asked for a fiscal review on how much it costs to post to the website. So probably it's a good exercise.
I think it's a good exercise, and I am full support of transparency, and as long as it doesn't impact our ability to conduct informal surveys of our own constituents, which are very routine, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Anyone else? I put myself in the queue. I just want to say one last thing. I think this is, I think I didn't adequately express, because I was trying to get to public comment, how important I think this is, because it took me almost a year to get legal review of a few questions that I wanted to ask my constituents when we got redistricted, and I had 49% new people, and I wanted to know what their most important priorities were, and I wanted to do it in a scientifically accurate way where it was a representative sample. And I come, obviously, as you all know, my job basically for 10 years was doing social science research, right? So I find it very important to make sure that when we're asking questions that we're not undersampling people who might be too shy to come to a board meeting or might not be on my email list. I know certain people might unsubscribe from my email list. I want to make sure that I'm getting their voice too. So I think that these kinds of surveys are really important ways of getting community feedback on, big initiatives. I think they're really useful to make sure that we're going kind of in a direction that makes sense to the broad base. We talk about community feedback all the time, and I think it's just really important to acknowledge that different people are going to show up in different spaces, and different kinds of community feedback are helpful in different ways. And if I was only relying on folks that, could turn out for a town hall, because I have a lot of town halls, there might be a lot of folks that aren't able-bodied, for example, or don't have childcare, who wouldn't be able to turn up to those events, and so the voice would not be heard. Or if someone wasn't on my email list, or they didn't have access to kind of those kinds of technologies. So I really like the whole idea of us being kind of more scientifically rigorous and having more representative samples, and making sure that when we do community surveys, that we're really trying to make sure that that is representative of the community as a whole. So that's obviously not for everything. I completely agree. There's lots of times where you just send out an informal survey, but having a better set of standards as how we can do this as a county, I think will really strengthen our ability kind of collectively to represent our constituents. So that's why I think this is so important. So that being said, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Do you feel like you need any formal red lines, or was it pretty darn clear from the conversation what the intent was, that we want, it has to apply to community surveys, polling, whatever you call it, and also it's only for when you hire the third-party firm. It's not like these in, just our own staff sending stuff out or informally.
Yeah, I think we have a good sense of the board's direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Oh my gosh. Supervisor Anderson, you've been putting your staff to work. Item 19.
Thank you very much. When the county receives public records requests, we're required to provide responses in a responsive record in a certain amount of time, 10 days for the initial response. However, meeting these requirements can be challenging as we continue to see substantial increases in the number of public records requests we receive. In recent years, we've implemented a new tool called Next Request, which is an online portal that helps track Public Records Act requests and ensures timely responses. We've had an opportunity to use this technology to reduce the time it takes staff to search for responsive documents and ensure that all county departments and offices are consistent in the way they handle Public Record Act document searches. I'm recommending that the CAO work with the clerk of the board and the county technology office, county council, and other departments to update our current response process to provide this level of efficiency and consistency. I understand this type of process has been successful when, so right now in the state legislature, when I served there, our computer department actually did all the searches of our emails and our phones, and they went ahead and reported it out. If we had any personal documents on it, like addresses or phone numbers, they would come back to our office and ask us if we'd like to redact it. Right now, the chicken hawks, us, are looking through our own documents to give to the public. I want to have a third party look through our documents and ensure that that we are as clean as a whistle and that we're handing over all the documents that make sense. So I'm really looking to have us update our policy to speed up the process and at the same time ensure that it's more accurate and that it's third-party verified. I know in our office alone, in the first 2 years, I think we had 6 public records requests. I think this year we in the first 2 months exceeded 32 requests. So literally a full-time staffer is doing nothing but fulfilling these requests. And I'm sure your offices are doing the same. There are better ways of doing this. This is a great application of AI. We've already seen with the portal that the clerk has put together with Next Request, the success, and I think that you've already tracked like 12,000 records requests. So, I mean, just in the short time that we've had it, we've become way more efficient and way more accurate. So that's what I'm asking today, is to have staff come back with some choices on how to improve the system and to take it out of our hands. And I'm respectfully requesting a second on this motion.
Okay. Let's go to public comment, seeing no requests from anyone to speak.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 2 e-comments, 1 in opposition and 1 neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 19 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. Begin with our in-person speaker. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite allegedly Audra.
Chicken hawks, Joel, you always have a lot of good, clean as a whistle, right? Yeah, you guys are funny with your little terms that you use. So AI is going to be utilized here, correct? And I'm wondering, with the AI program or technology that you have, is it solely for you guys, or is it some kind of, service that's provided to the government? Because this is also a way for, BlackRock and Vanguard to get information. It doesn't have to be a cyber attack. But just the way you guys do this, you keep changing the way you do records, and I'm wondering if the information or the technology office is the best to utilize. I just recently put in a request, and I was asked what departments to find that information from. How would I know that? Like, why would that be something I know? But okay. And I feel like if you guys keep changing this, eventually it's just going to go into the hands of AI, and AI actually hallucinates and could potentially be dangerous with providing information, and it can also be programmed to, say, hide information. So, who's programming this program? Because it does whatever it's told to do. So I'm just wondering if, somebody asked for something, would it have the ability to hide that information and say it's not available, or who knows what? But yeah, it's like, it's funny when you ask for stuff and then you're asked to like refine your search when your research is already refined. I'm concerned that when we put things into AI, if it's only like collecting data, sure, but if it's what we're interacting with, I feel like that's kind of, not good. I think we should still be able to speak to somebody about it and have communication with a human.
I see Andrea Ebbing is here in person. Andrea, I'd like to invite you forward.
I'm Andrea Ebbing, and I'm just asking that if we do this process, if we could please have a search that's not just for the title. So currently on Next Request in the city, I use that one a whole lot. Actually, I don't use the county one a lot, but I use the city one a ton. And you can't look up documents by like subject matter. You can look them up by what's in the title. Titles are often just numeric, like alphanumeric codes or whatever. So you kind of have to like dig through. It's very difficult. Might be on purpose, I don't know. But if we can have a place to search for topic by content. And then another thing I had in mind is using interns. I think this is a perfect, I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that you guys have to handle your own public records requests. I thought it would be like an intern's job. So maybe interns before AI. That's a really good way to get them started, and they can kind of see like the content. I think that's a good thing for them. And then, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Hey, it's Truth. So, there's a lot of third parties going on. Perhaps independent is a better term in this case, right up until I heard AI, because that's somebody's system. But thanks, Joel, for letting us know how truly corrupt this board is, that you got your own staff doing the PRAs, getting the actual records and redacting it or not. It's like, no wonder I found mistakes, and no wonder there's been a lot of censorship more than there's been mistakes. I got other concerns. I've been very concerned on what I've been finding in the PRAs, countless PRAs I've done, not just obvious corruption of this board, but the unethical actions taken, who I thought was staff, but since it's not staff, I thought it was like county clerk staff, but it's actually your guys' staff, releasing people's personal information of people who provide comment or initiate PRAs. So, for example, I found that in June 2024, county staff sent Zora Fahim's video as part of her comment for a meeting up the chain for personal viewing before she delivered that comment at the meeting. I found that in PRA number 24-3105, and I actually just found who this was. So Steve Lujan, Elisa Kobian, Kathleen Flannery, Jennifer Effie. They were sending it between themselves. County staff have released Paul Hankins' zip code, area of residence, and a summary of what he supports and opposes. This data should have obviously been redacted, and it wasn't. That's very disturbing. County staff have also fought me on public records requests, denying information that must exist, such as text messages, by first claiming that I requested text too old to have kept, even though it's illegal to delete those public records. Then when I requested text from one day before, they always say none exist. That's a bunch of BS, and your staff knows it, and they know exactly what they're doing. I've also had staff include my personal email addresses within the title of a document they publicly released. Why would they do that other than retaliation? Sick, very sick.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Man, it's interesting, all the shit that is happening. I understand that you want to be the auditor, Joel, and that's why you went ahead and wrote these things, which makes it very interesting. I don't know whether or not I should trust you. Meaning, you see the writing on the wall. You're not planning on taking another 4 years, but you want to go ahead and audit. You're acting like you want your support the people, but I know, based off of your conversations at the Board of Supervisors meeting, that you protected Michael Vu when it came to me. 100%. You refuse to go ahead and have one single conversation on me, but yet you want to be the one auditing everything. You stand behind the restraining order. First, you stand behind the fact that I was terminated, that you wouldn't talk to me. Then you stood behind a false restraining order because Tara wanted to go ahead and prevent me from ever attending the board meeting, right? I mean, hell, that's why she came up with the rules on that stuff. If you're off topic twice, then she'll make sure that you're kicked out. Unfortunately, she was having a problem trying to figure out how I'm off topic because always I've been on topic. You guys are just showing me in today's meeting and yesterday's meeting how far I am right. That the ballots coming, that the registration cards coming from the Secretary of State are probably loaded with fraudulent ballots that get counted. And you guys don't want to do shit about it, including the Republicans.
Pause the speaker's time. Okay, you started off all right, but now we've veered into territory that has absolutely nothing to do with the item being discussed. This is your first warning. Please stay on topic. Go ahead. You can go ahead, sir.
Because of this, and it is on topic. Don't try to pretend it's not because you don't like what I'm saying. Please, stop doing that. You are showing your cards. You're digging a bigger trench for yourself. Please stop.
Okay, his time is...
Listen to the people and do your job.
Perfect. So that was your first warning. Next time you're off topic in a comment, there will not be a first and second warning. That constitutes your first warning. So please stay on topic, or else the next time your time will just be cut off.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final caller.
Paula Bold, did I hear that you released my personal information? Anyway, I'm glad I'm still here and alive. From what I've seen, the biggest obstacle to the whole PRA process is government making excuses for why it can't provide or produce the records. Unless you can control that, I don't see how logging in and recording these records will help much. Follow the law. That's a biggie. This might help for the public to alert you to things like people living too large or forging invoices or falsified tax returns, like the ex-chief operations officer at the Harm Reduction Clinic Coalition, you contracted with apparently did. For instance, you won't even redact the record about a contractor who embezzled and committed fraud big time, even though the DA mentioned it in court. So who are you protecting? Not the public, that's for sure. And AI should not be involved in legal matters because you need a person anyway. So it's basically a waste of money. And with all of the false arrests and deaths AI has caused, I worry that the county could actually be involved in a protracted litigation. So, cost for the AI, cost for the people or lawyers to interpret it, and then cost for the lawyers to defend yourself in court. It's a total loser, and, as I say, follow the law. That's the biggie.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay. There was a couple substantive comments around the content of the board item that were actually factually incorrect. So I just want to turn it to Supervisor Anderson to clarify.
The board letter does not address AI. The purpose of the board letter is to standardize, create efficiency, and use technology. The end goal is to speed up the time frame in which we respond to the public and make it more accurate. And we're looking for staff to come back with choices after looking at all the options that are out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So turning it to Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you so much to Supervisor Anderson for bringing this item forward. Glad we were be able to discuss these measures kind of in one continuous meeting, but in one meeting nonetheless. It's certainly important for the public to be able to access government records in a timely and transparent manner. My office receives many PRA requests, and we try to respond as quickly as possible given the volume of requests that we receive. And I'm sure that all of you and the other county departments are in the same situation. My office follows Board Policy A54, so when the PRA unit in the clerk's office lets us know about a request, my staff member who serves as the PRA coordinator for my office works with the rest of my staff to identify all of the responsive records and makes redactions if necessary. If they have questions, they go to one of the designated county counsel assigned to assist with all of the PRAs. So my PRA coordinator then works with the PRA unit in the clerk's office to release the records to the requester. So I'm not sure, Supervisor Anderson, how your office currently handles it and how you came up with this new procedure. I do have several concerns about it, and I'll just quickly list them here. I also have a proposed solution at the end of all of this. But here are my concerns. First, I do worry that staff in the technology office will not be able to identify all of the responsive records because they will not have the subject matter knowledge nor the context of each PRA request. They would likely use search terms, but will that catch all of the responsive records? Secondly, I worry that it may also take them a longer time to identify all of the responsive records, which means that the PRA requester will have to wait even longer to receive the responsive records. And then third, I do not know if the technology office has sufficient staff to do this additional work, or if they have the software and capability to look into every department and elected offices' records, including their emails, text messages, and calendar entries. So finally, I worry about any one office having the sole capability of being able to look into every single person's records. As the county government, we are provided with a lot of residents' private information. And with this new proposed PRA procedure, someone in the technology office would have access to all of this information, and there would be no guardrails in place, as far as I can see from the board letter, to protect the potential misuse of private information, intentionally or not, right? So given all these concerns, I hope that my colleague will be open to a friendly amendment. I don't know if it meets the 25 words or less requested yesterday. It's not super long. It is a paragraph, but hey, it's up to you all, since you're the mover and the second. This amendment would direct the CAO to analyze if there's sufficient staffing in the technology office and in the county counsel's office to take on these additional duties as proposed by Supervisor Anderson. I would also like to know how much the software would cost for the technology office to be able to look through everyone's records, including emails, text messages, and calendar entries. And maybe there are other ways to improve the current PRA process, so this amendment would direct the CAO to get feedback from all of the PRA coordinators from each department and elected office and find out what works and what doesn't. In this way, we will be able to figure out other ways to improve the current PRA process. So I think Andrew has my amendment language. If you could place it on the screen. Oh, there it goes. So I'll read it. So it says, direct the Chief Administrative Officer to coordinate with the clerk of the board, county technology office, county council, and other relevant departments to work on establishing a fully standardized and coordinated Public Records Act request review, document compilation and response process that will apply to all county departments, including elected offices, utilizing the next request system. By one, collecting feedback from all of the CPRA coordinators about the current PRA process. 2, analyzing if there's sufficient staffing for any new PRA process. And 3, estimating the cost of any new software that may be needed to implement any new PRA process. And then report back to the board within 180 days with recommendations to implement the new process. That concludes my comments.
I'm not opposed to accepting your amendment. I would just like to ask, do you need the 180 days, or can you do it in 90?
Supervisor, thank you for the question. I'll turn it over to the county's Chief Information Officer. I think one of the long poles in the tent may be costing for the software aspect.
Yeah, we can get some rough estimates if a rough order of magnitude is sufficient, but detailed costs may take a little longer, but I mean, we can get estimates if that works.
So in 90 days?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm happy to accept the amendment and just make it 90 days. Does that work for you?
Just to make sure we give enough time, can we do 120?
Sure.
To make sure we
Sure.
give enough time, do
Sure.
120?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm very flexible.
That's fine with me, 120 is fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we, Andrew, could you update the language on the screen to 120 days? Okay, great. Please vote.
Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We did item 20 yesterday. We're moving on to item 21, receive the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board CLRB Annual Report. Is there a staff presentation? Okay, fabulous.
Supervisors, I'll turn it right over to Brett Klena, who is the Executive Director for our Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board.
Thank you. Chair Lawson Remer, members of the board, my name is Brett Kleina, and I'm the Executive Officer of CLRB. Today's item focuses on the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board's annual report for 2025. By way of background, the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board was established by voters in 1990 as an independent civilian oversight body. Its role is to receive, review, and investigate complaints against peace officers and custodial officers in the Sheriff's Office and Probation Department. CLRB also investigates all deaths that occur in custody. The CLRB board is comprised of up to 11 volunteer members appointed by the Board of Supervisors and supported by the executive officer. The board is advisory in nature, makes findings on misconduct, and presents policy recommendations. CLRB's mission is to increase public confidence in and accountability of any peace officer, custodial officer, employee, or contractor, including any contract healthcare provider, working under the direction of the Sheriff's Office or Probation Department by conducting independent investigations. While CLRB strives to be as transparent as possible with findings, it is important to note CLRB must also respect all confidentiality laws. In 2025, increased staff prompted a modest reorganization, and we welcomed 6 new board members to the 11-member board, which is now full for the first time during my tenure. This involved an orientation process and implementation of a board member handbook and a board member procedural manual. Additionally, CLRB was granted new jurisdiction over healthcare providers in custody deaths, which has provided unique challenges. CLRB is thankful for this board's approval of increased resources that went along with the new jurisdiction. I want to highlight a few of CLRB's many accomplishments in 2025. For investigative integrity, there was no missed deadlines. Investigators provide cases to the board quicker than ever before. We created a procedural manual for staff so everyone is on the same page and expectations are laid out. There was no canceled meetings during 2025, and new board members attended trainings, tours, and ride-alongs with the assistance from our sheriff and probation liaisons. And we successfully had in-person presentations from both the sheriff and the probation chief. Community members were able to provide direct comment. For more information on CLRB's accomplishments, the annual report is attached on CLRB's website. In 2025, CLRB closed out 177 cases and opened 158. 2025 started with 138 open cases and ended with 117. We worked hard to get these cases, especially the death cases, to the board sooner again than ever before. CLRB recognizes the importance of the Civil Service Commission and the rights of employees to appeal CLRB's board's decisions. As you know, some of our cases are complex, which requires considerable time and preparation. We had multiple civil service hearings during 2025, and many more are expected in 2026. We had staff turnover, which included 4 new special investigators brought in during 2025, but those investigators came in with decades of experience and credibility, which has greatly improved our investigations. The caseload in 2023 and 2024 produced the largest caseload in CLRB's history. And as you well may know, it takes some time to do these investigations. So those cases came forward in 2025 and expected to continue to come forward in 2026. And most of our sustained findings in 2025 were the result of failing to follow body-worn camera policy. Just an update on our significant long-running projects, such as our new case management system and just the released in-custody death study that was sent out as a press release yesterday morning. In 2025, we had 13 in-custody death cases and 1 death involving a barricaded subject who took his own life. Of the 13 in-custody deaths decided in 2025, 2 were accidental, which are generally overdoses. 3 were by homicide, which meant in that case 2 were other incarcerated persons, and 3 were by suicide, and the remaining 7 were natural deaths. In 1 case, the medical examiner ruled the death a homicide due to lack of insulin. We had 3 discharge of firearm cases. The subjects who were shot possessed weapons and repeatedly disobeyed commands. The subjects were treated at hospitals and released. There were 2 use of force protest cases decided in 2025. In both cases, no serious injuries were reported or discovered, and all use of force was deemed action justified. We did have 36 use of force resulting in great bodily injury cases in 2025. 15 of those cases were summarily dismissed due to the juvenile case file being sealed or the juvenile judge determining that there was no jurisdiction for CLRB. In all the use of force cases decided in 2025, none were sustained for excessive force. In 2025, CLRB made 5 policy recommendations to the Sheriff's Office, which 3 are still outstanding, but we received 13 responses from the Sheriff's Office on outstanding policy recommendations, most dating back to early 2024 to mid-2024. Of the 13 policy recommendations, 5 were accepted or partially accepted, and 8 were not accepted. As a reminder, based upon feedback from last year's presentation, all investigation involving in-custody deaths are attached as an appendix to our annual report, and additionally, all policy recommendations, both made and received, are attached as an appendix to the report. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Before moving to public comment, are there any questions for my colleagues on the CLRB report?
I do have some, but I'll save them.
You'll save them? Okay. Then we'll begin with public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 2 e-comments. 2 of those were neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 21 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Andrea Ebbing.
I have a real hard time listening to anything CLRB has to say when I was brutally assaulted in the hallway here by Nick Gonzalez in front of a whole lot of people. Anthony Ray was the interim sheriff at the time, sitting over there, rocking back and forth in his chair. It was on video. I have significant injuries still, nearly 4 years later, which is interesting. It's interesting when you're paralyzed and you get to walk again, and then all of a sudden you get the shit beaten out of you and you have to kind of go backwards. And it was found that there was no excessive force, but you did, say that he wasn't wearing or using his body-worn camera. Shame on him for doing that. But I have a hard time when it took almost over a year to do this investigation, or about a year, rather, and information that I submitted was not used, but information Paul Hankins submitted was. So none of my medical records, none of the video or things like that. And it was just, here he, still works here and tries to tell me you're welcome for beating you up, which is interesting to have a man be proud of slamming a woman's head into the ground, giving her a concussion, jabbing his knee in her back, twisting her arm so bad that there's nerve damage. That's so interesting. What else? Bruising on my foot, even a torn tendon, that's interesting as well. But hey, that's not excessive, right? So anything you say about the deaths as well, I'm sure is bullshit, because just go into Las Colinas and see what they're doing to the people. But we can't expose that because you guys are just here to give recommendations, right? It's like, isn't justice great? Oh my gosh, it will fully come when we all go meet our maker.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Andrea Ebbing, and thank you, Clerb, for the presentation. I have quite a bit to add to it. It's really unfortunate what happened with Audra. I was completely shocked when I saw what happened to her. I too am a whistleblower. I think I tend to get a little closer to mother's purse. By that I mean Summer Stephan, our DA, who I believe is a mob boss. And so it happened to me too. I was actually beaten almost to death in front of 40 children by Officer Anthony Warner, SDPD, on March 21st, 2026. And that was 3 days after I was released from a false imprisonment for a falsified $100,000 warrant from November 4th, 2025, because I was getting my second brain surgery because I survived ruptured aneurysm. I was picked up on that falsified warrant. Getting brain surgery is a good reason to miss a follow-up conference or whatever for her falsified case. But I spent 8 days in Las Colinas, and over those 8 days, I had shingles, very active shingles, from the stress, from the torture of this mob boss district attorney who's insulating my opioid-involved rehab owner X that the county's contracted $6 million for. So she gets kickbacks from him for Prop 36 defendants, and she wants to protect that. So she wants to kill me. And so when I had shingles, they sent me in anyways, and they denied my antivirals for 8 days. Every single day I was begging them. My blood pressure spiked to like 230 over 120. They wouldn't give me medical care. The women were screaming to get me medical care. I heard their stories. It is so bad. They neglect as part of the punishment. So part of the punishment is to watch people suffer until they're almost dead, and then they just kind of wind up dying sometimes anyways. And if a girl sees that happen, they send them into something called high power, so nobody can have access to them, and they're completely restricted. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Okay, Consuelo here. Okay, item 21. Wow, that is insane. That is some crazy stuff and insight from Andrea. I mean, whoa. Okay, so this board is supposed to represent civilian oversight of the Sheriff's Department. So want to be clear about that, about what it actually is and what it isn't for the people who have no clue about CLRB whatsoever. CLRB can review cases. CLRB can write reports. CLRB can make recommendations. What it cannot do is enforce anything. It cannot discipline. It cannot require compliance. It cannot hold the sheriff accountable in any binding way. And that shows. We're talking about recommendations going back to 2005 that still haven't been fully implemented. Yeah, that's like more optional freaking advice. We're seeing continued issues like body-worn cameras violations, flagged over multiple reporting periods, with no meaningful shift in behavior. So, yeah, what is actually changing? And then there's the delay cases taking months, even years. That's not transparency. Again, that's just, yeah, same old, same old. So we're left with a system that looks like oversight on paper, but in practice depends entirely on the agency it's supposed to oversee to hold itself accountable. Yeah, just another system reviewing itself and calling it accountability. Such bullshit. People need to pay attention. Done.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's truth. So for the record, I forgot to name Jennifer Effie as another guilty party of sending undelivered public comments up the chain. The clerk just mentioned a death with insulin next to the body that ended up being ruled a suicide. Is that a coincidence? Because it sounds very familiar to what's in closed session today. However, I read homicide, not suicide in the document. So I'm not a believer in coincidences, so I'm wondering if what we just heard was accurate or not. Or was it someone else's perspective, but not what Clerb found? And so they're giving their perspective. So I don't know about that. That's a little suspicious. But in general, I'm suspicious with Clerb because it's a great example of how anything this corrupt Board of Supervisors touches becomes a corrupt entity, incapable of achieving anything close to justice. It is yet another entity full of anti-law enforcement extremists rather than nonpartisan investigative citizens. No better than the local grand jury obsessed with puns. Nobody's qualified to be doing investigations, hence the judges' decisions. Judges are a major issue on all ends of justice. This board even violates the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights to further corrupt Clerb because, of course, they're anti-law enforcement too. And particularly, I'm referring to Monica and Manuela for different reasons. Manuela just is a criminal, so it's natural for her. Independent investigations are great, but Clerb isn't. This board isn't. The sheriff's office isn't it either. None of that is independent. Hence, every investigation, particularly the sheriff's, every investigation they do comes up clean. And more importantly, every time something damning comes up, they just turn off their video cameras. And I knew, when I first heard of video cameras, the body cams, I knew that was what was going to happen. And sure enough, it is. Your real problem is your county jail system. You need to let the feds come in and clean up your house.
Now hear from the final caller.
Paul Bold, thanks for including a link to the report. I see, though, that someone needs to press more lightly on the keys since the typist wrote page 114 instead of 14 and 223 instead of 23 in the index. The results are a bit disappointing. I expect there are several cases of excessive force not mentioned. And by the way, not listening to the actual person involved record submitted like Audra is absolutely gross. And I mean, I don't know why you even have Clerb. But remember to look at the training manuals. The laws are usually too vague in these cases, but the training manuals are a lot more specific. It's also disappointing, but not surprising, given the county's record, that Clerb is not allowed to investigate juvenile cases. What I mean is the state DA is investigating the juveniles cases. Not sure why there are more closed cases than opened cases in 2025. It would be nice to have notes explaining these items. While Clerb has issues, I am surprised that the sheriff still hasn't responded to 5 2025 recommendations. looks like the sheriff needs to pay closer attention to things like Clerb writing a letter of concern about body-worn cam violations. Maybe, in fact,
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for the presentation and for all of the work that CLERB is doing. As you mentioned, the caseloads are getting thicker and thicker, right? They're getting bigger and bigger, and there are more and more people are aware of CLERB and can come and utilize CLERB as a place to be heard and hope for change through this one mechanism of an independent body. I do look forward to seeing how CLERB evolves with this new jurisdiction over healthcare workers in our county jails in the event of an in-custody death. I was recently reminded that this is the first time in the United States that a civilian board has that type of oversight. And so we are trailblazers in that right. So looking forward to seeing, how it helps our processes and allows us to come to conclusions quicker and provide better recommendations. So I will continue to support CLERB and advocate for its needs so that it can provide the most effective oversight over our county sheriff's office and the probation department. And so the report is important because we do get to hear about something that, seems like it can be somewhat of an easy fix, using the body-worn cameras as necessary. And also, it is concerning the process of the probation request. But we are in our upcoming committee on juvenile justice. We are working around court proceedings. This is not necessarily a topic of discussion specifically, but generally we're digging into where those processes can be improved. Even though we don't have full jurisdiction at all over the courts, we do have that relationship though. And so we'll be discussing that further and looking forward to speaking to the appropriate parties about this process and what it is really doing. Because if we have 15 cases of grave bodily injury or alleged injury to youth, then we should be utilizing every avenue possible to hold anyone accountable that's doing that. So thank you very much for the report, and I know that the recommendation is just simply for us to receive it, and I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Chair Pro Tem Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to begin by recognizing the important work that CLERB and you all do. It's very important. It helps us uphold accountability, transparency, and public confidence in the independent oversight of the Sheriff's Office. I just want to express that at the same time, I'm concerned by what the annual report is telling us regarding juvenile matters and the limitations in CLERB's ability to fully examine these cases. Because when issues involving young people can't be reviewed as fully and as clearly as they should be, it raises questions about whether our accountability systems are meeting the standard our communities deserve. So I hope to continue to work with probation and with our state partners to better understand these barriers and identify a path forward that ensures meaningful oversight for youth and families. I look forward to continuing to work with CLERB as well, especially as it grows into this expanded role and as we continue pushing toward a system where this county fully upholds the values of accountability and transparency. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is it a second?
Second.
And a second. Any additional comments? I just want to say thank you for kind of the ongoing work. You all get these complaints and really terrible things are happening in our community, and looking to you to be the kind of watchdog on that, and then toil and work and do it in the shadows. And these kinds of report backs are really important so that we can kind of just remind everyone that there are eyes, and that there is a voice for folks who maybe have experienced some kind of really grave injustice at the hands of our criminal justice system. So thank you for that. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we take items 22, 23, and 24 together? Okay, we will take items 22, 23, and 24 together. And it's your show, Andrew Potter.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Lawson-Remer, members of the board. Today, I'll be presenting 3 related items that together implement major portions of Senate Bill 707 or SB 707, as we hear throughout the presentation. These items address inclusive community engagement, updates to the board's rules of procedure, and teleconferencing standards for county boards and commissions. SB 707 made sweeping updates to the Brown Act, and today's presentation summarizes what the county has done to meet those requirements. I'll start with an overview of SB 707, then walk through each of the 3 board letters individually, concluding each section with recommendations before you. SB 707, signed in October 2025, modernizes California's public meeting laws. Its goals include expanding access, improving participation, particularly for communities historically underrepresented, and addressing how technology is now used in civic processes. There are 3 major requirements that affect the county. First, remote two-way public participation must be offered for all regular board meetings. We already do that, and we've been doing that since 2020. Second, local agencies must conduct meaningful outreach to underrepresented communities. And third, the board must adopt policies addressing language access, remote disruptions, and procedures for remote participation by both the public and advisory body members. These 3 items collectively carry out SB 707. Item 22 implements the required community outreach and proposes strategies to expand participation. Item 23 updates the board's rules of procedure to ensure full compliance. And item 24 is consideration of the first group of advisory bodies to conduct teleconferenced meetings. Let's start with item 22, promoting inclusive engagement in Board of Supervisors meeting strategies aligned with SB 707. To comply with SB 707, the county conducted extensive outreach to identify barriers faced by residents who do not typically participate in board meetings. This included non-English speaking communities, youth, and community-based organizations. Between February and March of this year, the county engaged with the community-based organizations, or CBOs, to hold 10 multilingual focus groups. The county also engaged with the youth sector focus group, a media outlet focus group, and an online survey that received 171 responses. More than 120 residents participated in person through our CBO partners. We saw consistent themes across all sessions: low awareness of board meetings, difficulty understanding agendas, need for clear participation instructions, desire for stronger language access, and barriers like work schedules, transportation, and the intimidation of participating in a public meeting. But despite these challenges, participants expressed a strong interest in becoming more engaged when information is more accessible. Based on this outreach, staff identified 6 strategies for the board's consideration. First, simplify the agenda into one user-friendly document with hyperlinks. This could be implemented by the meetings in August. That will give staff time to implement the changes in the agenda management system. Second, create plain language guidelines for agenda titles. This could also be implemented by the meetings in August because many board letters have already been drafted and in the review stages, so this will give staff time to adjust to any new guidelines. Third, publish step-by-step participation guides in all threshold languages, and this could be done by the end of June. There'd be minimum costs for paying a contractor to convert the flyer into all threshold languages. Fourth, produce the public service announcement in multiple languages. This might take a little bit longer, about 10 weeks, to dub the video into all threshold languages. And fifth, conduct community workshops through our CBO partners. And this could be a 6 to 12-month effort, making this offer to the CBOs to gauge their interest and determining if there's capacity within their existing contracts. And lastly, expand live interpretation services to additional threshold languages. Now, depending on the procurement process, we would strive to get this up and running as soon as possible, but because it would involve implementation of an AI solution, we would engage with the County Technology Office to ensure the system complies with the board's AI policy. Item 22 asks the board to direct the CAO to implement whichever of these strategies the board selects today. Now let's look at item 23, amendments to Board of Supervisors rules of procedures to comply with SB 707 and update public participation provisions. Item 23 proposes updates to the board's rules of procedure to ensure compliance with SB 707, particularly around remote participation, language access, and procedures during technological disruptions. The changes include formalizing remote public comment procedures, requiring an hour-long recess if remote services fail. This is meant to give staff time to address any technical issues. If we can't resolve the remote services, then the board would be required to take a roll call vote to resume the meeting without remote participation. The changes also include providing Spanish language agendas with an annual review for additional languages, accommodating interpretation needs within the chamber, including use of the balcony. And we're also proposing minor updates to align the rules with current technology used for speaker requests and public commenting. These reflect actual practices already in place, and I'll touch a few of these in more detail. As I mentioned, another major shift with SB 707 is mandating that meeting agendas be translated into any language spoken by 20% or more of the population with limited English proficiency. So for our county, for San Diego, this data shows that 25% of the population speaks Spanish, with 35.6% of that population speaking English less than very well. So with that data, this requires the Board of Supervisors agendas to be translated into Spanish, and we will start publishing the agenda in Spanish with the May 5th and 6th agendas. Another areas for language translation were included in SB 707. One is a public posting place for people to post their own translated agendas. We have a posting box in the south entrance to the County Administration Center for this purpose. I will note that the law does allow the county is not responsible for the accuracy of community translations. Lastly, the county is required to provide reasonable accommodation for personal interpreters. Since earlier this year, we have been providing information in the agenda about utilizing the observation balcony for interpretation services. Item 23 requests that the board adopt the resolution to amend Rule 4 of the board's rules of procedure to ensure statutory compliance and reinforce public access. Lastly, let's review item 24, consideration of requests for boards and commissions to conduct teleconference meetings. Item 24 asks the board to consider requests from 7 advisory bodies seeking authorization to conduct remote or hybrid meetings under SB 707. To qualify, a board, commission, or committee must be advisory only, have no final decision-making authority, and not address certain sensitive topics like elections, budgets, or police oversight. At least one physical location must remain open to the public, and remote members must remain on camera and disclose who is present in the room with them. 7 advisory bodies have requested authorization for the next 6 months, including the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, the Health Services Advisory Board, and several local parks and recreation committees. The request memos have included in the agenda item as attachment 1 that describes how each group can meet the statutory requirements. To approve these requests, the board must find that teleconferencing is appropriate given the circumstances of each body, it enhances public access, it supports recruitment, retention, and diversity of members. SB 707 requires that the board make these findings every 6 months to continue to allow a board or commission to have remote meetings. Item 24 asks the board to consider the requests, approve those that meet the statutory requirement, and direct staff to return every 6 months for renewal. In summary, SB 707 significantly expands public access and participation requirements. Through outreach, rule updates, and teleconference standards, the county is taking a comprehensive, community-centered approach to compliance. These actions will meaningfully enhance transparency and participation in local government. Chair Lawson-Rima, that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from my colleagues before we go to public comment? Okay, turn to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person And 5, requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that for these 3 items, we received 6 e-comments, 4 in support and 2 neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on items 22, 23, and 24 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Andrea Ebbing. They'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
You giving us 1 minute usually is you wanting to hear from the people for sure. So I'm glad we do that and we're not trying to fix that. Tara, you crowned me a parliamentarian. Remember that? In the room over across the hall. So I thought, you know, if you want somebody to do a public service announcement or some of the outreach or workshops, Andrew, you were there. She said it, right? She said, I'm good at that. And I could teach people how to speak in a minute. So, I mean, if we're going to keep people at a minute, let's really help them utilize that time wisely. So I feel like, you know, I'll take $3,000 and do a, you know, public service announcement. It would be very good. I mean, do you not agree? Or were you lying to me? Oh my gosh, Tara, I'm even concerned. Were you talking about me when you said you care when people have been, you know, when grave things, whatever you said? Was that including me, or is it my hair? Like, what is it that I'm not included? I just feel like you guys aren't inclusive when it comes to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why can't I help you out with this? You said I was good at it, and I just feel like, let's see. Because I guarantee you I could go and reach more than 120 people. And you go out to all these CBOs. I mean, I have people watching on my live stream right now. A lot of times it's more the people that are watching your live stream. So, you know, and people want to know how to do things, I could tell them. I don't have to educate myself on it. I did it by coming here. It was a quick education. But why would we really want to encourage people to come? That way you can just pretend to do outreach and stuff. I mean, because if you really did, you know that I could do it. But I guess you just like to blow smoke. Does that mean I'm not a queen like you? Oh, dang it. It sucks.
Next speaker, please.
Okay, hi, it's Andrea Ebbing. I actually think it's a great idea to have Audra do some outreach because she does reach people that do want to be involved. I think that's actually a good idea. So do keep that in mind. I also think we should, for sure, like it's actually exciting to participate. I have like a lot of grievances and very direct, but I think you all know that I also can reach out to the DOJ and the FBI and, I mean, not the local ones, those ones just work for Dana Sabrow and Summer Steffen, but the ones above them that are watching them not take action on the things they're supposed to do now. So my outreach might, I didn't start here, like I was kind of going to the high ups before, but I just want to say that I like participating, and I think a lot of people would. We should take all those billboards that used to have all the Narcan stuff up there and make it exciting to come to these meetings. Like, let's promote these meetings. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It can be like, let's do something big and make this place awesome again. Well, no, we don't want to do that. We'll figure out our own tagline. But we could do that. And also, like the Family Justice Center, I don't mean this in any racist way whatsoever. I know my neighborhood. I am the only Huera. I'm the white girl in the neighborhood. Hello. And we have billboards that are in Chinese. We don't have Chinese people in my neighborhood. It's all Mexican. It's predominantly Mexican, not even Spanish. We have these billboards for One Safe Place, a Family Justice Center, which is literally a money laundering facility. That's all it is. Casey Gwynn started it. Summer Steffen took over. It's going back and forth between the city. And the only thing they do is hand people papers and say, here, call these numbers, go figure it out. They have a food pantry with canned goods in it and clothing. That's a money laundering facility. We don't need billboards in Arabic in Linda Vista. Like, we could use that to promote these meetings and get people here because I think they'd want to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller. Our first caller is Consuelo. Your device might be muted.
Hi, before you start my time, are we given 1 minute for this or 2 minutes?
2 minutes, Consuelo.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 2 minutes to speak, Consuelo.
Yay! Okay, great. All righty. So, first off, I want to say, Consuelo here. The county is, okay, so what you mentioned, Andrew, the county is not responsible for the accuracy or translation of other languages. I mean, then why even allow it at all if there will possibly be a misleading information? And regarding the whole disability thing, you don't accommodate people with disabilities. I know one person in particular you have actually cut off during his speeches, not you, Andrew, but Tara, when in actuality you should be giving him more time to speak due to his disability. But yeah, he shows up anyway, and I appreciate that. Okay, so, okay, back to the other bullshit. Okay, so, yeah, I'm not someone who, or actually, yeah, showing up to these meetings for nearly 6 years, yeah, I'm not the problem when it comes to engagement, but what I see here isn't inclusive, and it seems more like controlled. If there are fewer than 10 speakers, you give the people, or you give the people their 2 minutes, but when there are more than 10 speakers and only like 9 people are in the chambers to speak, you still give them the 1 minute. That's not cool. You guys pack the consent calendar and expect the public to compress all their concerns into like into 2 minutes, while like even the freaking city of San Diego at least give their public a minute per up to 3 minutes, let's put it that way. And then your own disclaimer. I already said that about you're not responsible.
You? Now hear from the next caller.
Hey, it's Truth. Sarah, you're actually so predictably untransparent. I knew you were going to combine 3 items. If it was about surfing, we'd get a full 6 minutes to address, I'm sure. Thanks, Andrew, for the presentation, for revealing one of the bad aspects of SB 707, or at least how the county's conducting it, the outreach to the extremist CB organizations, no to political CBOs having any workshops to become professional paid activists at these meetings. We get enough of that garbage as it is. For example, in Tara's fake transparency item yesterday to extend her term limits to become wannabe queen, what a waste of a full hour hearing minions on the dole. You know what we do? We just turn it off at that point. Turn it back on later. Getting to the positive, an HTML version of the meeting agendas is long overdue. Not hiding the sign up to speak option is long overdue. I would also like to see the sign up system visually streamlined, because not only is it hard to find, it's way too many steps to sign up to speak. Not hiding the board operator number when the system screws up is long overdue. I support live interpretation services if, where, and how possible. Add close-up video of every supervisor at all times. Several cities already do this for transparency. We need close-ups of Joel and Manuela's triple chins whenever they stare at their phones, which is 99% of every meeting. 99% double or triple chins. While Monica and Jim look great. Sarah, dirty oceans don't count as washing hair. In cities, I don't find it necessary that committees and commissions have remote access, but because the county is so vast, I think it's warranted. I'd like to see a limit on how many times a committee or commission member can participate remotely. Otherwise, accountability may turn into a free-for-all. As far as SB 707's intent, this is the one area the county has mostly done correctly, including concealing people's personal information like phone numbers. So why can't you do that for PRAs? Is it because it's your information that we have a right to? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I have followed the unveiling of SB 707 since its beginning, and I think we were all excited about its goal to improve access and participation. I'm not sure what we see today is a good step. Combining the three items, I think, works against what SB 707 wanted to have happen. But I do at least appreciate the conversation regarding about outreach to the community. As someone who attends my county planning group, something that's noticeable to me and to my sister who attends another one is the lack of participation by staff. I noticed during COVID when we had call-in, we would hear from staff, although they'd leave the meeting after they'd share. I think it's really important. You don't really understand what's going on in the incorporated area. You're very much keyed in on the city of San Diego. I understand that. It's the largest city. But we only have our Board of Supervisors. We don't seem to have a robust committee procedure for things that are coming to us so that we can weigh in the committee like we do, like those who live in the city of San Diego do. That'd be wonderful. And I would make that number 2. 1, send representatives to all the county planning groups so you hear from us. And 2, put in some sort of committee process that's just broad subject matters so that we can speak to the issues before they come here to the Board of Supervisors. We only have maybe twice a month that we get to address the Board of Supervisors for those of us who live out here in the unincorporated area. Twice a month about issues that affect us. This is just a really unfortunate setup. Some months only once because there's just...
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final caller. And our final caller is Paul the Bold.
Sorry, I muted. The recommendations were good. Option 1, a comprehensive agenda including links to relevant documents is a great improvement. By the way, this facilitates transferring agenda items to the next day or to the proper time slot when needed. Doing this causes so many people to for their jobs or children. You should, even the number of items I say, I suggest a limit of 15 per day scheduled in advance. This would cause the least number of people to be excluded from speaking. Look at the number of speakers today, about half of yesterday. But the best thing would be to stop discrimination and enforcement of the speaking rules, permit clapping between speakers, prohibit prolonged chants or clapping, stop calling anyone things like that. You might want to limit the time spent on the word share, or even limit your own speeches, like a cancel or they really loud only. And by the way, it's interesting that only 127 people out of a county of 3.3 million participated in the survey. Maybe you didn't promote it well enough. Looks like number 23 looks okay, but I hope that it needs to. The county will go further than SB.
You and Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions?
Just real quick, Andrew, so for the options under item number 22, none of those are conflicting, right? We could approve all of them? Okay, so I'll move approval of the entire package, and do we have to split the motions up?
No, we can have
Okay.
one motion.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I just want to say, I really appreciate the diligence. I know that, Andrew, you're always trying to make our meetings more accessible, and it's hard to know how to do that if you're not asking people what they need. So it's good to ask people what they need. I actually just had a very small minor question. Sorry, it's not going to impact my vote, but I just didn't understand one slide. If we could go back. There's a slide on the ACS requirements. So it says requires use of American Community Survey data to verify whether a total of 20% more of the county population speaks English less than very well. And then it says the ACS data for San Diego County is that 25% of the population speaks Spanish, with 35.6% of that population speaking English less than very well, therefore requires the Board of Supervisors agenda to be translated into Spanish. But by my math, 35.6% of 25%, what is that, like 8% of the San Diego County population speaks English less than very well. We should still do it. That's why I said, like, let's go. Let's like transfer all the, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. It looks like 8%, according to your slide, of our data, of our population speaks English less than very well.
You're not missing something. There is conflicting information in the legislation. Some entities are using this calculation in different ways. What our county council has determined, with a number of other county councils, is that you use a two-step process. So first determine if there is 20% of the population that speaks English less than very well. So we meet that threshold with Spanish. And then is there 20% of that, more than 20% of that population speaking English less than very well?
Wait, say that again, sorry.
You first do a calculation to determine if there's any portion of the population that speaks English, more than 20% of the population speaks English less than very well, and which language that is. So for our county, that's Spanish at 25%.
25% of the population speaks Spanish, but it doesn't say that 25% of the population speaks Spanish and 25% of this population speaks English less than very well. It just says that the data that you presented is that 25% of the population speaks Spanish, but doesn't mean they also speak English less than very well.
Within that population, 35% of
Right.
that.
So
Correct.
8% of our population, 8% of the population of San Diego County both speak Spanish and speaks English less than very well, which doesn't speak to the requirement of above.
There is legislation that is working its way through the state to clarify the exact question that you have about the calculations. We're taking a conservative approach because we have the 25% that meets that first criteria to move forward.
Okay. I mean, I think we should do it no matter what. So that wasn't the math didn't look right. So, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second.
And I just want to clarify with this motion for item 24 that this would approve the following groups to use teleconferencing as an eligible subsidiary body consistent with all Brown Act requirements, which would include the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, Flood Control District Advisory Commission, Health Services Advisory Board, Just Martin Park Advisory Board, County Service Area 81 Fallbrook Local Planning Parks Advisory Committee, Community Service Area 128 San Miguel Local Park District Citizen Advisory Board, and County Service Area 138 Valley Center Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, approving the findings for those groups as submitted. Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, we will now move to Wednesday non-agenda public comment. We're now on Wednesday.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 10 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 3 in person and 7 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. I'll ask you to begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward Andrea Ebbing, Dorothea Flanagan, and Robert Gurman.
Hello, my name is Dorothea Flanagan of North County, District 5. Today is Earth Day. Where are we now since 1970 when Lady Bird Johnson put the brakes on billboards and other forms of pollution? The problem has worsened here. There is no enforcement or consequences for sign blight removal. Certain politicians nail their political signs high on telephone poles. Though prohibited, Public Works needs to notify them of fines and to remove them. Secondly, the 4.5-mile Gopher Canyon Road needs a regularly scheduled cleanup since it has over 17,300 vehicle count per day, and dumpers hit it regularly. Residents don't want to do it or call for cleanups all the time. Thirdly, regarding billboards, there doesn't seem to be any protected or preserved places where a billboard company isn't allowed to visually pollute beautiful scenic landscapes with mountain ridges. Look at Highway 395. They even made them higher so that it'll cover the rocks. So when you look at the beautiful range, you won't miss their billboard. Drivers have their views and right to enjoy unadulterated areas taken away from them. Lake Hodges on Del Dios Highway now has 4 billboards. I almost started crying when we went to eat at Hernandez Hideaway. Which scenic places will be next? Please preserve what we love. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Robert Gurman, this is a follow-up to the possibility, likely possibility of a ICE deportation center being built at Gillespie Field. The first slide shows that they're definitely not being transparent. We kind of already knew this, but at least we have the AP showing that it's the truth. And it carries over to Gillespie. Gillespie isn't transparent. San Diego County Airports is not transparent. And then, this KPBS, thanks to KPBS for showing that now they're going into Miramar. That's a temporary situation. They're going to end up at Gillespie. That's what they're building down there. Gillespie's barely surviving. And what is happening, this was an excellent article that I liked about what's happening at the ICE detention centers. Because they're hoping they're not going to stay there long, but they do stay there long. And especially, and I have 3 daughters, especially for women, they're just treating them like the one Congress lady said that they treat them worse than at an animal shelter. You got to read that. And it's also on live. And then I came across this in my search, that in 2004, this was published, and I gave you a handout, by El Cajon City, and they are joint powers people, or I don't know how you would say it, people with the county, and it is very, very good as far as it is accurate. And it's worse now. 40% of the aircraft at Gillespie Field are not certified to fly. They're not airworthy. So basically Gillespie Field is turning into a scrap heap, or you would call a boneyard. And I don't believe that's appropriate, and I really can't understand how they got the 70 acres to build anything for aviation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Andrea Ebbing.
I'm Andrea Ebbing. Oh, I wait for my time to start. Sorry. So I'm Andrea Ebbing. I mentioned a few moments ago about the absolutely horrific, brutal beating. I mean, I've never in my life been beaten by somebody like that. I mean, I just had a ruptured aneurysm. I literally survived a haymaker. My doctor said if I got to the hospital 1 moment later, no way would I have survived. I remember dying a couple of times, like on the way into the surgery. 8-hour surgery. So it was, I had 2 surgeries, and again, I mentioned that it's illegal. There's 4 reasons that you could miss a 130th 5 years in allegation of a violation of an order that Summer Stephan knows does not exist and wasn't served because she filed a motion in limine for it, and then issued a $100,000 warrant for me. The waste of resources that we're experiencing as a result of this woman that's driving homelessness, driving the addiction crisis, driving the inmate in custody deaths at Las Colinas. I met girls in there that are on a 16-week wait list for treatment for Prop 36. The deputies, they're all traumatized. They don't want to be there. They're not surgeons. They can't save these people. People are just dying. They're dropping left and right. Their mental health, they're disabled. They're people that stole a banana and now they're in Las Colinas. I mean, oh my gosh, the stories I heard in there, I was very traumatized by my experience there. There was one girl in there, she wanted to keep her baby, had cramps. It brought her to an abortion clinic 3 times. Not once, not twice. They brought her to an abortion clinic 3 times, and then they brought her to Paradise Valley that doesn't have OBGYN. So by the 5th time she was brought to a hospital, it was for a DNC. It's awful. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We're going to hear from all callers this morning so that we get to the 10 individuals that requested to speak. So we'll begin with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Chair Lawson Remer. My name is Terry Ann Skelly, and I work in public health and youth mentoring and tutoring programs. My youth mentoring and tutoring programs in the county include young people from very diverse backgrounds. And in general, they lack the information necessary to understand the ramifications of drug use in general. When I think of the reason why that is, I notice the messaging around them. Social media, of course, the presence of marijuana storefronts and their delivery services, and billboards mute clear messaging around drug use and its negative consequences. To intercept drug use at the beginning and change teens' perceptions of its harmlessness, I respectfully suggest that the county could increase its enforcement efforts to eliminate illegal, all-flavored inhaled marijuana products. This is required by the State Department of Cannabis and AB 1207, a 2023-2024 bill. An annual county code enforcement check at a minimum is important because Department of Cannabis Control does no enforcement at all of its permittees. It's important that the county not be behind the times and recognize now what multiple daily studies are telling us about the real cost of marijuana consumption. And code enforcement would be a very welcome addition to parents, educators, public health advocates, and others who work on behalf of our youth. Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Peggy Walker. Ms. Lawson Remer spoke earlier to being scientifically rigorous, an excellent idea. That being the case, I respectfully suggest that this board look to rigorous scientific studies showing an overall public health crisis emerging from early initiation of pot use, showing increases in use and psychosis rates among youth living within 10 minutes of cannabis businesses, showing teens from lower income neighborhoods have higher use rates, heightening concerns that wider availability worsens mental health inequities. Look to the county's new well-being report for children and teens, showing 40% of the county's marijuana-related ER admissions were youth 12 to 17 with behavioral health issues, including suicide attempts. Suicide was the most common reason for ER care and hospitalization and is a leading cause of death among children in 2023. Radius Children's Hospital reports 600 youth presented for cannabis treatment last year. The county predicts a 129% increase in youth substance use treatment needs. This all points to a marijuana problem among youth who readily access it when commercially available. As a youth mentor, I urge you to, yes, please delve rigorously into the science to understand what the real consequences of marijuana commercialization will be in our rural communities. This industry's business model is to hook future generations and keep them dependent. New businesses will provide the next dose, leading to the next ER admission, hospitalization, and suicide. Our children's lives are not worth the risk. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Madison, and I'm here today to share some concerns, both my own and those of many county planning groups, about continued marijuana retail expansion. We need to take seriously what expanded marijuana commercialization means for today's youth and young adults. Additional marijuana licensing results in more marijuana businesses, more storefront visibility, and increased normalization of a mind-altering substance in the very communities where young people are growing up. Today's marijuana products are far more potent and heavily marketed than in the past. A growing body of research links youth marijuana use to increased risks of anxiety, depression, suicidal thinking, and even psychosis. This is especially concerning because the brain continues developing into the mid-20s. Young people are at a critical stage for learning, motivation, and long-term mental health stability. As retail density increases, prevention becomes more difficult. Families, schools, and communities are working hard to guide kids, but greater exposure leads to greater normalization and often easier access through diversion. What may be intended as economic opportunity can unintentionally increase harm, especially in communities already facing health disparities. We should be asking whether expanding marijuana retail truly supports long-term community well-being. Real equity includes protecting youth and young adults from increased exposure to substances that can negatively impact their mental health, educational outcomes, and future opportunities. Thank you for the chance to talk today.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Ann Riddle. I called in for my non-agenda public comment because of my concern about billboards out on our highways in the unincorporated area. Of particular concern are two that are for pot shops or marijuana storefronts on Del Dios. The one that's really glaring that my daughter took a picture of for me is for the Cake House. It is large, it stands up and disrupts what is otherwise a beautiful vista, as the previous speaker mentioned about billboards. And it's in pastels. It's a beautiful yellow and a blue green, and it's a big picture of a piece of a cake with a cherry on top, and then some descriptive words. Tell me, is that attractive to children and young adults? Of course it is, and that's the purpose of it. It's nefarious, it's predatory, and that's what industries that sell addictive drugs do, and that pot shops just being another one that's a problem for our children. We know that here in the county that drug use begins before the age of 19. It's considered a pediatric onset disease. And we also know that we're not spending the prevention dollars we used to on prevention for our young people. So the last thing we need is these type of billboards staring them in the face as they drive down Del Dios with their parents from west to east or east to west. I ask ourselves, Are these industries really something that bring us good health? No, they're vaped and they're smoked. People might tell you otherwise, but still, research suggests that the majority of products bought at a marijuana storefront are vaped or smoked. This is a county who has recognized thoroughly and has put in place some restrictions regarding vaping and smoking and the need for smoke-free air. And
Now hear from the next caller. Our next caller is Zora Fahim. And we'll come back to her.
Good morning. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm here today to share an invitation and to highlight an important community effort that has quietly made a difference in the lives of some of San Diego's most vulnerable youth. Each year, San Pasqual Academy hosts its annual Service Day, an event that brings together volunteers and students in a shared effort to build, restore, and uplift their campus community. Young people who have participated in this day of service have become a powerful example of young people serving young people, peers coming together out of empathy and a shared purpose. San Pasqual Academy serves foster youth, many of whom have experienced instability, trauma, and in too many cases, the generational impacts of substance abuse. We know that drug abuse doesn't just affect individuals. It reshapes families, disrupts childhoods, and leaves lasting effects on our young people's sense of safety and opportunity. The Academy's mission emphasizes resilience, connection, and the belief that every young person deserves the opportunity to succeed despite their difficult circumstances. These are the programs that should be supported and promoted by this board. It's counterproductive for this board to support and promote the expansion of the marijuana industry into our backcountry, the same backcountry that San Pasqual Academy works tirelessly to counteract the negative consequences of drug abuse. Please consider the damaging harms of expanding psychoactive drugs into our communities. I invite each of you to attend and participate in this year's Service Day. Come see firsthand the strength of these young people and the impact a community can have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the final caller. Final caller, Zora Fahim. Your device might be muted. And a final call for Zora Fahim. Not hearing any audio from that caller. Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes a request for non-attendant public communication this morning.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So now we will move on to the first item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Oh, apologies. We have to first do the approval of minutes and the statement of proceedings.
Move to approve.
Hold on, I have to say which ones they are.
For the Sanitation District of March 25th, 2026.
Okay, for the Sanitation District, March 2026.
Oh, that changes everything.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Okay, thank you very much. Please vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay, now we are on to consent. This is items 1 through 6 and sanitation number 1. These will all be acted upon with one motion as the routine. Do any of my colleagues have any items upon which they'd like to comment or any items to pull? Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you so much. Just a quick comment on item number 1. Want to thank Housing and Community Development Services team for your work in the gap analysis that determined the need for sidewalks in Spring Valley. As the board letter noted, the project area is within a 76% low and moderate income census tract and has a healthy place index score of 31.22 percentile, reflecting socioeconomic and health disparities. These improvements will provide safer routes to Bancroft Elementary School, Goodland Acre Park, and Lamar County Park, while supporting walkability and active transportation for residents and businesses within the community. I drive this area quite often, and I know that there's a severe need there, so I really want to thank staff for identifying that need and making sidewalks happen in this community. And with that, I will move approval of the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair Pro Tem Aguirre. Anything to pull? Any comments? Okay. Supervisor Anderson?
Not at this time, thank you.
Supervisor Desmond?
No, and I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 9 requests to speak on items on the consent agenda, 3 in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. For those that request to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Andrea Ebbing, and Michael King. If I've called your name, please come forward. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. Also, when speaking, please identify which item or items on the consent agenda you are speaking about. Thank you.
I don't know what's all over this. If it's sweat or something. Anywho, number 3, do you think 15 years is long enough to complete this project? Do you guys think we need to add more? We could give them 20 years. You know what I mean? We like to take decades to do things. Number 4, the 3 roundabouts. Heck no, you guys are totally impeding people's ability to evacuate during an emergency, but that's cool because we'll have more deaths and then we can benefit off of those because we'll, take their homes and stuff. And then, it's interesting when you guys do stuff with open space and, we see all of the human suffering. Good thing you guys care about the planet enough to save it. We don't need to worry about the people. I mean, who are we saving the planet for anyway, right? The elites. I know they already have underground tunnels. It's fine. But how is this data? Terry, you're a data expert. You love your data. Now, it's saying that 480 metric tons per year is saved by doing this, perhaps. And that's about 90 cars off the road. How do we figure that? Are we just trusting the science? Trust the data, right? Trust us, it works, right? And you guys need to reach your goal of 98,379 acres. How cool is that for butterflies and stuff? I'm so glad we're doing that, because then it makes people think that you care about human life or, whatever. Like, we're doing this so that we can save the planet for you guys. And this is going to cost $74,000 a year to manage. It's good management of our money, right? Maybe you can find some homeless people to go work on those, give them a job and maybe a place to stay. They could go camp there, right, like they do downtown. Although they are dying there and being raped, so I don't know if we can accomplish that out in the wilderness. You know what I mean? So we got to keep them where they're really going to be traumatized. Yeah.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Andrea Ebbing, and I want to speak on the on number 4. the gifts and donations. So I spend quite a bit of time on the registrar's website. I look at 460 forms, I look at donations, I track every single cent going in and out of all of Summer Steffen's PACs because of all the corruption she's carrying out in the county, which is costing us millions and millions of dollars, but she's pumping millions and millions of dollars to those campaigns, I guarantee you that. You can easily look it up on sdvote.com. But there was something that stood out to me. I was trying to get information on the new indoor gun range contract that for Poway shooting range or whatever it is, and I found a whole bunch of donations from the owner to Summer Steffen because it's quid pro quo, of course. And one of the interesting things I found, besides the 37,000 lines of law enforcement donations to her when she publicly stated and vowed to the public that she would not accept law enforcement donations, but I found 37,000 lines. When you're, one thing about the fraud is that when you can go into the big numbers and you think that's where it's at. You're like, oh, I'm gonna look 5,000 to 5 million. I'm gonna find all the dirt there. But you actually find the dirt in the lower numbers in very repeated patterns. And there's some really dirty officer-involved shootings, deputy-involved shootings, police brutality. All these people are paying her, tons of defendants. But besides that, I also found an office holder or candidate called NA. They're a non-existent person, but through that person's, Nana's campaigns, we have A&P Drywall, ABC Construction Co., Inc., Intermediary Associated General Contractors of America, San Diego, and Acme Safety and Supply Co., Inc., pumping quite a bit of money through Nana's campaign. So we should probably look at that, and I don't know where to report it to because FPPC doesn't listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chair Lawson, Reamer, and Supervisors, and happy Earth Day. My name is Michael King, and I'm the conservation organizer with the Sierra Club of San Diego, and I'm speaking on agenda item 6. The Sierra Club of San Diego strongly supports the proposed expansion of Iron Mountain County Preserve. The addition of approximately 380 acres is an important step towards meeting the county's conservation goals and advancing the multi-species conservation program. Expanding the preserve to roughly 540 acres will protect a large continuous area of vulnerable habitat, including sensitive coastal sage scrub and chaparral ecosystems that are increasingly rare and fragmented. This expansion will help safeguard sensitive species such as Belding's orange-throated whiptail, Blainville's horned lizard, Cooper's hawks, and mule deer, all of which rely on connected landscapes to survive. This project also reflects smart regional planning. By conserving these lands within the proposed MSC framework, the county can help streamline appropriate development in less sensitive areas while ensuring long-term environmental protection. This balance between conservation and housing is critical for our region's future. So, on this Earth Day, we urge the county to move forward with this acquisition because expanding the Iron Mountain County Preserve is a meaningful investment in our quality of life, biodiversity, climate resilience, and sustainable growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Extension of time. A time extension for the Harmony Grove development, which is under a lawsuit. You should wait to see if it is practical to proceed. The proposed development would add a huge amount of traffic to the already limited evac crowd. A fire chief testified here that he would not have approved the project. And there are concerns over the environmental impact. There's huge.
Please clarify to which item you're speaking, or else you'll have to forfeit your time if it's not on topic. Thank you.
I said the time extension. I mean, are you listening? Until we know that we will not be wasting money on these roads and drainage systems for projects that might be scaled back or not done, do not approve this.
Sir, please pause. Are you speaking to item 3 on consent or item 9 on discussion? Apologies. Item 8 on discussion. Which item?
3.
3. Okay, thank you.
Item 4. SR 67 improvements promised in 2004 are still not done. The SR 67 Highland Valley Road to Dye Road project would enhance safety for all, increase evacuation capacity for wildfires, and improve daily and emergency traffic flow along the 16-mile stretch of SR 67 from Lakeside to Ramona. As badly needed, do not reallocate money from it. I also oppose inclusion of the Rancho Santa Fe roundabouts in the 2027 Transnet Local Street Improvement Program. Roundabouts hamper emergency response and evacuation. Save your money. Do not transfer money away from important projects and redo the program. That the county is making bond payments for San Diego, by the way.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Bonsuelo. So I'm going to continue where Paul left off. Thanks for interrupting him again, Tara, the terrorist. Okay, so the county is making bond payments for Sandag, suggests it can't manage its own bond debt, and ran to you for help. Clowns. 6, acquisition of 380 acres open space, the Iron Mountain County Preserve. So you are taking $2 million of the unlocked reserves for a county preserve. The reserve should be for emergencies, for people, not for land. Clowns. But even for land, it's ridiculously expensive. $4.9 million, $12.9 thousand per acre. The appraised value is only $4.4 million, $500,000 less. Wonder which real estate mogul will be profiting, always. Then there will be continuing costs of maintenance and management of $75,000 a year. It all adds up. Now is the time to waste money on overpriced. Now is not the time to, well, they always waste money, babe. Now is not the time to waste money on overpriced land deals and raid the reserves for it. But that's government. It would be cheaper to build housing for these animals and move them to an existing habitat. Let's do it that way. Which animals, babe? The ones on the board? None.
Thank you. Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item. The items on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor by Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp and a second from Supervisor Desmond. Please vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you all very much. So I'm going to give everyone a preview, especially folks in the audience, so everyone can kind of plan accordingly. So what we have remaining is we actually have item 7, which is continuing from March 25th, which is the AED item, item 8, item 9, item 10, and then closed session public comment. So we will get through items 7 and 8, and then after items 7 and 8, we'll take a quick lunch, and then we'll come back and do 9 and 10, and then move to closed session. So let's move on to item 7.
Should I introduce, or is there a presentation?
No, it's yours.
Okay. Didn't realize if there. Well, I want to say thank you to my colleagues for considering this item. Just a few comments. State law AB 310 requires youth sports organizations to have access to automated external defibrillators, AEDs, during any official practice or match beginning on January 1st, 2028. I know that's a ways off. But I think this is a noble, well-intentioned requirement, but it had no money attached to it. And I'm concerned about the smaller volunteer-run, soccer, baseball, any youth sports are going to have struggled to afford an AED at all. Last May, in 2025, I brought forward an item asking staff to explore options to help groups get a leg up in trying to comply with AB 310. And after reviewing staff's report back, which is part of item 7 here, I want to propose an approach that's going to strengthen the cardiac safety across the county and help youth sports organizations obtain AEDs if they need that assistance. The staff kind of put a choose your own adventure options on here with staff, which I thank you very much. So my recommendations is to create a voucher program for eligible youth sports organizations to receive a redeemable voucher for up to $1,100 per unit, which is what these are costing. And that is totals up to about 300 units with the prices included. Also add weatherproof AEDs to the county parks and recreation sports facilities. There's about 8 sports facilities in the unincorporated area that do not have any AEDs located there. To put those up and have those available. And then also develop and administer an AED awareness campaign through January 2028 to help groups understand how to comply with AB 310 and how to provide training and educational workshops on its use. So that's I'll make a motion after public comment, but that's what I'm requesting moving forward. And this would all be, I know there's about $880,000 is what this is going to cost, and this would be referred to the 26-27 budget. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 11 requests to speak on this item, 5 in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment in support. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 7 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. Because there are 10 or more speakers on this item, you have 1 minute to address the board, and I'll ask you to begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'll call forward the first 3 individuals, allegedly Audra, Andrea Ebbing, and Enrique Christofferson. If I've called your name, please come forward.
What a slap in the face to people, because the vaccines that have been administered have caused myocarditis, pericarditis in children. And people started just dropping dead on playing sports or just, just standing there. Nobody wants to acknowledge the cause of it. But yeah, let's implement putting these to save someone's life. How about you do a awareness campaign on the deadly genocide shots that you guys encourage people to get? It's actually really sad to know that you guys lie to people out like that, and people lose their lives because of lies that you guys perpetrate. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for bringing something like this forward and not acknowledging the real truth about it.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Andrea Ebbing. I think it's a good idea to have these defibrillators on site. Anything to keep the kids safe. Anybody that's at a sports facility would be great. I'm in District 7. I mentioned I was brutally beaten almost to death in front of 40 children by Officer Anthony Warner, and the 24 officers that can't respond to a non-emergency or emergency call in Linda Vista for hours somehow just showed up within seconds of him slamming my head on the ground, and they were reenacting it and laughing. And I looked up all their other pay for their kickbacks. They all make $5,000 to $70,000 in other pay. Each one of them. I have all their badge numbers. They're all getting reported to post, clerk, Commission on Police Practices. But the big thing about that in District 7 at the rec center is that there's no working cameras on that rec center. And there were 4 murders in 8 months. So kids go there, and I've heard there's a lot of drug dealing, and those officers are involved. Thank you.
Thank you. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'll invite the remaining speakers in person, Maureen O'Connor and Laura Irwin. If I've called your name, please come forward. As well as Enrique Christofferson. Yeah, you can come forward. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Enrique Christofferson, talking on item 7, AEDs. I represent Response Ready. We're a small woman-owned local business based in Oceanside, serving communities across San Diego County with AED and emergency preparedness solutions. I've worked in this industry for over 20 years now. I'm here today in strong support of this AED initiative and county's efforts to expand access to defibrillators for sports organizations in order to comply with AB 310. I would like to respectfully raise one consideration as option 1B, the Amazon Business Voucher Program, is evaluated. AEDs are Class 3 medical devices regulated by the FDA, and not all AEDs are available through Amazon marketplaces that are FDA approved for use in the United States. This may create compliance or liability issues for purchasers and end users, and possibly even for the county. My intent today is to simply raise awareness of this issue, and I believe that there is a practical way to address this and supports the county's goals while ensuring safety and regulatory compliance. Thank you for your time and leadership.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name's Maureen O'Connor, and I am proud to represent San Diego Project Heartbeat, a regional program for nearly 25 years to preventing sudden cardiac arrest death through access to AEDs in education. I'm here today in strong support of Supervisor Desmond's AED initiative and the item before you, which responds directly to AB 310 and the real-world need of our youth sports organizations. AB 310 sets an important and necessary standard, but compliance alone does not save lives. Preparedness does, and preparedness requires more than equipment. It requires training, awareness, outreach, and trusted community partnerships. That's why San Diego Project Heartbeat supports option 3, and we believe it is essential to the success of this effort. Option 3 brings together right partners. San Diego Project Heartbeat is a part of a regional coalition of organizations through the county that will help with this.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Irwin from Valley Center. I'm a coach of 17 years, a mother of 6 athletes, and a small business owner. I'm going to skip ahead because 1 minute. Just wanted to, along the lines of the gentleman before me, that say that may I request the supervisors to consider the 1C option for distribution? Why give big box stores and Amazon the business when we have hardworking San Diegos who can fill that need? In addition to supporting small business, please note Amazon does not supply specific FRX, AEDs, and other ones that are all weather that would be the right choice for many youth sports programs. My family also owns a small AED business called the Medic Source. We are sure capable and competitive of not only supplying these AEDs, but managing all the accessory expiration dates. If the county is supplying funds for these units, it could be a legalistic nightmare if there is no entity managing the needs of these units post-sale. If you go with a local vendor, all of the legalities shift to the vendor. It is a win-win for the county and the local business owner.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Okay, Consuelo here. And considering, what the county chose for air purifiers for issues regarding the TJ River sewage odor for the people down there, you better opt and go for a better grade. The children deserve it of these defibrillators or whatever this item is about. Sorry, I'm actually driving right now. I should pull over. Don't tell on me. But anyways, yeah, you better get the best for the children, considering a lot of them are having heart issues, falling and collapsing on these fields. Or it wasn't an issue before, but all of a sudden, 6 years ago, started becoming an issue. I wonder why. But, yeah, I am hoping that you don't, you don't.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
All about this is an interesting item. Perhaps it addresses the post-COVID increase in deaths from exercise. As Audra said, people in gyms and sports facilities, people who do a lot of work seem to be dropping all over the place suddenly. And I mean, no one really knows why, but we all know that the vax causes death, and it's not all that it was billed to be. Doesn't really save lives. But maybe we should install anti-vax machines in gyms and sports facilities. I prefer options 1B and 2C.
Now hear from the final caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I'm calling in from my work site, which actually happens to be where we hold some after-school programs, at school, where we hold after-school programs with young people. And it's been difficult to kind of discern the difference between option 1 and option 2. I would hope there would be some sort of combination of the two. All facilities where our young people might be need to have access to an AED. This is not a new item. As past legislative chair for my PTA, we have discussed this situation, I think, for at least 10 years. So I appreciate that the county is putting money to this suggestion and making it happen. It's about time. Are these sudden deaths new? No, but we're far more aware of them. It's not really a problem associated with COVID. It's not a problem associated with exercise. It's a problem that has existed for some time and that we're just.
Thank you. Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors.
Okay, you done? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Wondering if any of my colleagues have any comments?
I just, after hearing the speakers asking for other options, I was going to make a motion for option 1B. This is redeemable through the county's Amazon business accounts. That if this voucher goes forward, that's the only place they could access them. And I would like to add with that, or any FDA approved AED options, which would actually be option 1C. So I could change the, so I'll make a motion for option 1B and 1C. They're both the same. One's just saying Amazon business accounts, and the other one says they can opt out for other vendors as well for these AEDs, not just limiting it to 1B, just limits it to Amazon's account. So I'd like to make a motion for, I guess, option 1B and 1C, and then option 2A. This puts AEDs at some of our 8 of our park facilities, and then option 3 entirely for the public awareness program and campaign for the outreach. So that would be
Ed, sorry, say the second one again,
option 2A and option 3. There is no A, B, or C, just option 3 is the awareness campaign.
Can I get clarity? So are you intending the total cost for option 1 to be 353 plus 353, or you're kind of trying to combine?
Well, the total
1B and
cost,
C?
the total cost is $880,000 for the options. Option 1B and 2A and 3. It's in the recommendations. It's item 2 in the recommendation number 2. That's the total cost, $880. And that's for 300 units.
I just want to get clarity. You said you wanted to do options 1B and 1C? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, but I guess the only part of, what I'm trying to do is not just limit the vouchers used to only Amazon's business account, but to also allow for other vendors and organizations to purchase through other FDA-approved organizations as well. So it wouldn't be it'd just be, they're both 1B and 1C. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That'd be doubling that cost. Yeah. They're the same price, but I just want to be able to allow other than not just limit it to Amazon's business account.
So can I have some assistance perhaps from County Council for Supervisor Desmond to make this motion? I'm hearing you say, keeping the total cost at the $353, right? $353,000, but you want to have multiple avenues through which people can purchase.
I don't see where you're getting the 353.
I'm
seeing the 412 total one-time costs of options 1B and 1C. It's on page 2 of the agenda item.
Okay, apologies. That was a previous version, so
Yeah.
it looks like the cost was updated. Okay.
So just one of those, so I don't know how we would best phrase this.
Legally, from council's standpoint, the board could make that motion, allowing them to be purchased in either way. What I don't know is from an operational standpoint, if the cost would remain the same if we were combining two different methods.
Well, what we have, the voucher limit is $1,100. So there's no, if it costs more or less, that's, well, if it costs more, that's going to be on the organization. So there is a limit of the $1,100.
Go ahead, please, Davia.
Supervisor Desmond, through the chair, would it be possible to provide us some sort of dollar limit and allow for providing both options? And then we could, identify up to 100 vouchers, for example, at the $1,100, and then whatever that critical mass is that we need to achieve some cost savings for the vendor option, 1C, we might be able to then achieve that. So if you give us a total dollar amount combining the two in a way that's most economical,
Well,
perhaps?
I'd like to leave it at the 412 number that's in there.
Okay.
And then up to 300 units, and I guess maybe I could rephrase this, just option 1B, that organizers can, or organizations provided with a voucher redeemable through the county's Amazon business accounts or any other FDA-approved AED vendor. And then that keeps the cost the same. We're not doubling the cost, or two options there. And this, I just wanted to state, there's two groups of priority groups that qualify for this. There's Group A and Group B. Group A is the priority group, and Group A is they have an unincorporated home field. They also have an everybody plays philosophy, a volunteer-based for Group A. So that's primarily mostly for the unincorporated area. But there are options, is a Group B, for non-unincorporated areas, that they hold tryouts, they have paid coaches. There's a few, they're not affiliated with a governing organization, or they don't meet the criteria of Group A. So this could spread not just in the unincorporated areas, but also in the incorporated areas. But there's a total of 300 AEDs. Group A, which is in the unincorporated area, is the priority, has first priority over this. And unfortunately, 310 came with no money, and we're strapping these small volunteer organizations and teams with the cost of the AEDs.
Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. My additional just concern, hearing from the public, was about the procurement process, I guess, or the, and you may have resolved this with adding another option, but I think this might be under 2A. I just want to make sure that our small business owners have an opportunity to be a part of this process. And this is something we just heard today. This is something that Supervisor Anderson and myself have prioritized through kind of trying to set up the county to do better, be better among small businesses. So I don't know how we what we would need to do to add just that? Is there a competitive process in here, or was it assuming that we were going to go with a company already?
No, there's no, there's no particular companies. The only thing we had, well, except for the Amazon business account, but I think with the language that I put in there, or any other FDA-approved AED vendor. So that, the FDA approved is but if they're a vendor and then it's FDA approved, they still get the $1,100 max per unit. So with that language, I think that covers
We're
what the
okay.
speaker
That was
requested.
my only concern. Thank you.
Thanks.
Supervisor Anderson?
I don't know if you caught, I'm just happy to second that. My mic. I'm happy to second that. There is another issue in this too. You know, for a lot of these organizations, they do fundraising themselves. So even if the cost was more than $1,100, we're giving them the lion's share, and they can close that gap. And I don't think there's anything wrong with these leagues having some skin in the game, because this equipment needs to be maintained. And when you pay for it, even if it's a nickel, you now are an owner, you're not a customer. And I think that I don't have a problem with leagues having to chip in something in order to get there.
Does that impact your motion in any way?
I'm good with the motion. I was just adding my 2 cents. If the motion maker wants to make a change, I'm happy to support that too, but I wasn't insisting on it.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only question or concern is around the outreach funding. I definitely, that piece seemed not clear to me. That was totally necessary. I just, I know that we've already, our county team has already identified 250 organizations as part of their stakeholder outreach. And it seems like we could probably get, do some free social media and outreach to these 250 organizations. So I don't know that we need to spend a bunch of money on the outreach. The rest, I'm very supportive, but I don't like this. I don't love this outreach piece. So I don't know if how Supervisor Desmond, how you feel about that. That would be great. Great. We can do we can send an informal community survey to ask if they need a AED.
I'm hesitant on that only because our offices aren't the experts on AEDs and AED use, and I'm just hesitant. I'm okay with if you want to put a cap or you want to put some, but I don't want to put that onus on my office. If something goes wrong or it's not used properly and they didn't get the awareness and outreach, so I'm hesitant to accept that at this. I understand and I agree, but I don't want that.
I hear. I mean, I wasn't trying to accept. I wasn't trying to suggest one way or the other. I just was saying it's a bunch of money. Doesn't seem like we need to spend it. We've got a bunch of free channels, can post on social. We have 250 orgs that we already are working with and can outreach to and send emails to. The rest of it, I'm totally supportive of, but I would love to save a little bit of money and not spend that on that outreach. And our district offices can be helpful to the extent that they'd like to be.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, spend as least as you can, but make it do the job right, Davia.
For clarity purposes, please, through the chair, if we could just understand what the budgetary amount is, if there is a cap or a total amount, certainly we'll be efficient in how we approach that. Staff can elaborate if you'd like, but if you could please identify what you're looking at, and then we will work within those resources.
I think my question is, do you need to spend any money at all? I mean, if you already have all these groups that we're talking to, we already can, our county social has a huge presence. I'm sure Supervisor Anderson's going to do a press conference and get lots of free earned media. I'm just saying.
So you're going to use interns?
Anyway, so I think I throw it to you. It just didn't seem necessary. So why don't you let us know?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the comments and the question. If I can turn to staff in terms of what was envisioned and what we would need funding for if there was consultant services and so on to develop collateral, that would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Davia. Chair Lawson-Remer. So the intent of this public awareness campaign, it would be bringing on a part-time staff to be able to develop a robust marketing campaign, educational training resources, as one of the speakers highlighted, making sure that the purchasing of those units also came with adequate training and resources as well, developing an overall campaign about the awareness of this, but a more robust initiative to really focus on those organizations that are in need and underserved.
How much is the training part?
So thank you for that question. So the training would be focused on those leagues participating, and they range. Some are free trainings.
No, how much would it cost us?
So we would not be doing the training. We would be educating the participants about resources and opportunities to participate in those trainings and the marketing campaign associated with it.
And Chair, I think what you're asking is what would the cost for a consultant or someone to develop the training be if we were going to isolate that component?
Yeah, I'm basically saying, I think you're trying to give away free stuff. I don't think you need pay a lot of marketing to give away free things. We have a lot of ways of communicating with these groups. But it does seem helpful to make sure they're using the equipment correctly. That seems like a good investment. So what would that part cost if you're just talking about like supporting groups to use the equipment correctly?
So we had built in a staff member for over a 2-year campaign. That was about $83,000 a year to actually do that over a 2-year campaign and to develop the resources, the supplemental materials in order to do that. We currently don't have a staff member on our team that does this.
So maybe if we said $100,000 for that purpose, I'd be comfortable with that. That would make sense to me.
Okay, so is that amendment to the motion to cap the public awareness campaign to $100,000?
And focus on like how to use the equipment, really like supporting these groups and how, but yes, it's the basic motion. No, right now it's, yeah, but right now they said it's for everything. As opposed to, am I misunderstanding? But is that for only the public education? Is that for all the public education? Sorry, I think I'm confused. I thought you were saying that was only for the part of the training, not for the outreach.
Thank you for that question. There's 2 components to that. One is the actual materials, awareness, branding, outreach. That's about $150,000. And then there's 1 staff member that we would bring on over a 2-year period of time to actually implement that marketing and media campaign associated with it. So it's both of those costs are built into the overall option 3.
So I was just saying, looking at the $82,000 per piece.
That's for the temporary staff.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting we spend the money. No, we don't need to spend so much time talking about this. It's not a huge deal. Thought just seemed like to be frugal.
And are we actually doing the hands-on training? Because I don't think we should be.
Through the chairs, no, through the chair, Supervisor Desmond, we would not be conducting, county staff would not be conducting the training. We would rely on resources and existing trainings that are out there, and that's what we would direct folks to. And there's a number of them.
Okay.
It's basically publicizing training so people get the training they need.
We could do that in 6 months, not 2 years.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry to get us totally distracted. I'm just saying $232,000 to tell people about a free thing seems like a little much, but I think helping make sure they get connected to trainings where they know how to use the device makes a ton of sense. So I just wanted to isolate that second component.
So just, if I may, Madam Chair, just to clarify, what you're saying is you support staffing the part-time person to help implement and do outreach and education on this program, but not the marketing campaign aspect of the expense.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
The supervisor, Chair Pro Tem Aguirre adequately summarized my incogent thoughts. Thank you.
I'm supportive of that if the maker of the motion is.
So the cap of 100K, is that still out there or no?
I just figured, like, I don't want them to come back and ask for more because of inflation, so.
Well, do you need 2 years for this program or could you do it in 1?
The chair, Supervisor Desmond, so let me also just be clear as well. So initially, we're going to need to set up the program, right? We're going to need to build in an application, a screening criteria that fully vets organizations. That takes resources to do. We want to make sure that we are setting this up correctly. So there's a lift associated with that. We can reduce the overall outreach. We're trying to build in 2 years to lead up to the bill and allow for adequate time to outreach folks, but we can scale it down. We can, modify it as necessary, but we do need resources on the front end and then to continue it out throughout that time.
This place is expensive. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I think Davia had.
Supervisor, through the chair, I do understand your request to expedite and how important this is. If we could have a little bit of time, given all of the variety of different efforts that the Parks team is working on, we can try to reduce that time. But if we could have at least a year to get that ball rolling and then start the program, that would be appreciated.
So where's the motion?
I'll make a very simple motion to amend your motion, not even a motion amendment, it's a friendly amendment. Instead of including the whole cost of the public awareness campaign, cap it at $100,000 and focus on the piece that's really assisting with eligibility and making sure people know how to use the devices.
Well, I think we're not in the business of telling people how to use the device.
No, it's not telling them, it's connecting them to the trainings. So they know how to use the device.
I see.
I don't want us to do any trainings.
No, me neither.
No, we're telling people where to go. Yeah.
Okay, tell them where to go to get the
Yeah.
training.
Mhm.
Yes, by the professionals that do that.
Exactly.
I'm happy to accept, and staff understand all that? Okay, I'm happy to accept and that, and Jolie, okay?
And Vice Chair Montgomery Step, you still had to.
Yeah, I was definitely understand the conversation, but I am concerned we're taking it a little bit lightly. Like this is something that we've been mandated to do. It is about actually saving lives, so there is a lot involved, and I just want to make sure we're giving the leeway for that, and we can always add more to the pot or take the overage and put it somewhere else. But I don't think it's not a lot involved in that. So that's all. I'm good with the motion, but I just want to make sure we understand. It seems simple, but it won't be hard or complex, but just work, quite a bit of work to get out, especially if we're talking about lower income communities, unincorporated areas. This is not, folks have a network, but they may not be used to hearing from the county in this way or dealing with the county in this way. So we have to keep those things in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to everybody. There's a motion on the floor in a second.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 8. Davia, is there a staff briefing?
Yes, Chair, there is a brief staff presentation on this item. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lawson-Remer and members of the board. I am Jason Emmons, Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Our team is here today to present an update on the Alpine Community Park project. Today's request is associated with a legal requirement to set aside the current approvals for the Alpine Community Park project. However, before diving into the legal considerations, we'd like to start with a little bit of background about the project. I will now turn the presentation over to Crystal Benham, who is the Chief of our Resource Management Division.
Thank you, Jason. Alpine Community Park is located in the unincorporated community of Alpine, east of Wrightsfield. Alpine currently has no county-owned or managed parks. In 2019, the board voted to approve the acquisition of a 98-acre property to provide recreational opportunities in the community of Alpine. The county, in partnership with community stakeholders, had evaluated hundreds of properties over an approximately 3-decade-long period before purchasing the proposed park property. This property is now protected as a park in perpetuity through the Park Preservation Act, because the property was purchased for development of a park. The proposed park property, which is adjacent to and north of South Grade Road and east of Tavern Road, was acquired to develop a portion as an active park and conserve the majority of the property as open space. Active recreation is planned for 25 of the 98 acres and will connect to trails located on Wrights Field, which is a publicly accessible nature preserve owned and managed by Backcountry Land Trust. The remaining 73 acres will be managed and monitored as an open space preserve and will serve as a natural barrier between the park and Wrights Field. These 73 acres will also be protected as a natural open space preserve in perpetuity. Alpine Park was designed with the local community to serve the needs of this community. Multiple workshops, hundreds of survey responses, and discussions with stakeholder groups led to the final concept of the park. The inland and relatively remote location focuses the programming of the park on local residents. In addition, park amenities are similar to those in other communities, thereby reducing the preference for use by others outside of Alpine. DPR does not anticipate the park will draw users from the region. However, there will be ample room for local families to spread out and to recreate on the fields or to host small community gatherings in designated picnic areas. In December 2023, the Alpine Community Park project was approved by the County Board of Supervisors. DPR facilitated an extensive community-driven design process to shape this new park, including several public meetings, online surveys, stakeholder meetings, and community events. Amenities planned for the park were derived from this community outreach and to meet the current and future needs of the community, and to be consistent with the goals outlined in the County Parks Master Plan. Recreation amenities for this local park will be built closest to South Grade Road on land that has been previously disturbed by human use. This reduces impacts to native plants and wildlife and reduces build costs so that more resources can be put toward habitat rehabilitation. The project is anticipated to be constructed in phases. Current funding will be focused on completing as much of Phase 1 as possible and will be dependent on the bids received from construction contractors. Phase 1 includes 10 acres of the park and potential amenities such as a dog park, playgrounds, picnic areas, a community garden, sports courts, an equestrian staging area, park office and restrooms, a volunteer pad, and parking. If funding is not sufficient for all amenities, DPR will continue to seek additional funds, including exploring grant opportunities for full build-out of Phase 1 and future phases of the park, which include the remainder of site development, a multi-purpose grass area, baseball field, all-wheel area, bike skills course, fitness stations, multi-purpose building, a second restroom, and additional trails and parking. On February 27, 2019, the County Board of Supervisors approved purchase of this 98-acre parcel of land with the intent to build an active recreation area on the site. On December 6, 2023, the County Board of Supervisors approved the Alpine Community Park project and certified the associated environmental analysis, which was an Environmental Impact Report, or EIR. On January 5, 2024, the Cleveland National Forest Foundation and California Native Plant Society filed suit alleging the approval of the park violated the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. On January 20, 2026, the Superior Court of California ruled in the county's favor for all issues except for the CEQA claim regarding the EIR's analysis of potential impacts related to the western spadefoot toad, pallid bat, wildfire, and traffic. I will now turn the presentation back to Jason to discuss our next steps.
Thank you, Crystal. DPR continues to be committed to bringing a local park to the community of Alpine. To do this, several steps are required. Today, we're asking the board to set aside the previous project approvals in accordance with the court's current order. Next, DPR will update the environmental analysis as directed by the court. This specifically involves updated analysis related to the western spadefoot toad, pallid bat, wildfire, and traffic. Because the legal challenge was specific to public disclosure under CEQA related to these issue areas, we do not anticipate changing the overall project design as part of this update. As part of the revision process, the updated analysis will be circulated for a new public review period to allow the public to weigh in on the revised analysis. Additionally, staff will review all comments received during the public review period and prepare a response to comments to demonstrate to the public how all comments were incorporated and addressed. Once the EIR has been revised, the document will come back to the board for certification along with all other project approvals. We currently anticipate that the project will come back to the board in fiscal year 26-27. We heard from stakeholders during the initial approval of the project and certification of the EIR that they wanted additional time to review the proposed final EIR and response to comments prior to board consideration. To account for that input, we will be posting the EIR to the County Parks website 30 days ahead of board consideration and notifying interested stakeholders to ensure sufficient time to review. If the board approves the project at that time, construction can begin and is anticipated to take approximately 2 years to complete. We will continue public outreach throughout the entirety of this process so that interested stakeholders and community members are informed, including providing updates at public meetings, such as the Community Planning Group. Today's request is for the board to adopt a resolution to set aside the Board of Supervisors' December 2023 certification of the Alpine Community Park Project Environmental Impact Report and rescind all project approvals to comply with the court's ruling. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and hear from the community.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 13 requests to speak on this item, 3 in person and 10 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 40 e-comments, 36 in favor and 3 in opposition. Any individuals that requested to speak on item 8 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with our in-person speakers. You'll have 1 minute to address the board. Since there are 10 or more speakers on this item, I'll ask you to begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward Patrick Williams, allegedly Audra, and Andrea Ebbing. If I've called your name, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Patrick Williams. Thank you. I learned about the planned park complex at a board meeting of the Backcountry Land Trust, which I was a member of. I stated opposition to the park because it's an expansive park on 25 acres, the most accessible and spectacular land of the Wrightsfield area. I was told that this park was a finished, a concluded deal, a done deal, and it couldn't be reversed. And that was before the beginning of the CEQA process. It's a place where families have gathered for decades to do photos for graduations and weddings, picnic, and walk. I was told that if more of us had attended the several county meetings, a different park might have been proposed. But a large majority favored a passive use park at that location.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Wonder why he was told that. Who knows? Seems like you guys get yourself into a lot of legal trouble. It doesn't seem like county council's doing a very good job keeping you guys out of it when you're doing things. But we have to have and go through the process. This CEQA stuff and the EIRs are a good way to delay projects. They're only supposed to take 2 years that will be implemented in 15. You know, just make people wait. But you seem to be doing things that are putting people in danger, especially when you're not, you know, trying to mitigate or make sure you're not putting people in a wildfire danger zone. So it looks like some other items that we have on the agenda today are in the same boat. So who knows, but it's great because it costs us more money when you guys go into litigation. It's great. I love spending money on the stuff that you guys mess up on. It's fantastic. I just want to hand you some pennies and be like, take these and just spend them wisely.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments. We will start with our first caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Courtney Norton, and I'm a lifelong resident of Alpine and board member of Preserve Alpine's Heritage. I support the request to rescind the certification of the EIR for the proposed Alpine Park. I urge the county to reconsider other locations within the village center for active sports amenities within the proposed park. There are many locations throughout the village with already disturbed land or options for joint use agreements to update what Alpine already has to offer for parks. The scope at this location is just far overreaching. Based on the court's ruling, truly, how will the environmental impacts be mitigated? There are species on the county-owned property that just can't be picked up and moved or disturb the adjacent land that they thrive on without the anticipation of their extinction on the land. I encourage upgrades to the passive park that already exists at this location. It is a park already, and our community enjoys it for what it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon. I'm Dominique Norton, a longtime resident of Alpine. I encourage the board to not only rescind the approval, but also require DPR to go back to the drawing board on the scope of this project. Impacts on the western spadefoot, pallid bat, and Keno-checkered butterfly can be completely avoided if the entire site was turned into an open space area. As the county noted, the county has been looking for a site for active amenities for over 30 years. Ironically, in the 1990s, the county, including DPR, is on record highlighting the rare and sensitive habitat and species at this exact site. The resources have not changed. They are even more in peril. While the county did engage the community has misrepresented the community's desire. The community has overwhelmingly not supported the active park amenities the county is forcing in this project scope. There is no safe access for youth of our community to access this site. The county should locate active amenities in the village to reduce safe access issues and avoid CEQA violations. Thank you for being stewards of our resource and happy.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hi, my name is Angie Woodard, and I support the Alpine Community Park being built. I've been a resident and a homeowner for 26 years. I have two children that attended both elementary, Joan McLean, and both high schools. And I always felt cheated that there were no nice community parks in Alpine to play at. We always had to travel down the hill and go to another park, you know. And also, we had to do the same thing because there were no high schools there. Anyways, my children are grown, and I now have grandchildren, and I would love to have a park for them to play in. And that's where I'd like to see my tax dollars being spent on. Thank you very much. And again, I support the Alpine Community Park being built. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
This is Peggy Blocker. I find that this park faces legal challenges because of cited violations of the CEQA Act. Environmentalists argued that the project threatens local habitats and ecosystems. This is unfortunate for park development, but it brings to question whether other projects with potential for threatening local habitats and ecosystems are being held to the same rigorous environmental compliance requirements. Many specifically question, for example, how marijuana grows proposed for our rural areas can stand the test if this park did not. The current marijuana EIR plan brought forth considerable concerns over environmental threats, ranging from water depletion and runoff issues to pesticide and fertilizer toxins, annoying odors, and disturbance of natural habitats. Lawsuits against growth have been brought in other counties. It's difficult to imagine that this alpine.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Hey, good morning, San Diego County Board of Supervisors. My name is Lila Werland, and I was born and raised in Alpine, California. I support setting aside the EIR certification and rescinding approvals for the Alpine Community Park project. The draft EIR does not comply with CEQA. It lacks sufficient analysis, relies on vague mitigation, and prevents informed decision-making. As an environmental studies policy student at UCSB, I found the report legally inadequate and aligned with community concerns, and I read the EIR report. I grew up near Wrights Field, and despite years of opposition, this project ignores key issues. Unsafe access, there's no walkable or bikeable routes, reliance on driving, and paid parking that will impact nearby neighborhoods and limit equitable access. The EIR also fails to address major impacts. Harm to sensitive species, including the endangered Quino's checker spot butterfly, inadequate wildfire analysis in a high-risk area, flawed biological data, and over-reliance on generalized assumptions like relocating species. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
All bold. So there are no county-owned parks in Alpine. Yeah! I mean that's shocking. Why is park right there necessary? So you can control land in every community? You bought the 98 acres of land for this park in 2019. In fact, it is already being used by the residents of parkland. So, places like this should count in what you look at as parks. And the site has so many CEQA problems. There's lots of land nearby. It should be easy to develop into a park in somewhere else. Pursuing a park here, again, is a big waste of money. And if I were on the Alpine Community Planning Group and not informed about this, as the board.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon, County Board of Supervisors. My name is Travis Lyon, and as a school board member, the chair of the planning group, and a member of several local service organizations, and most importantly, the father of 3 kids, I fully support the Alpine Community Park. I trust you know how important parklands are for communities. I trust you reviewed the CENA that outlines how underserved Alpine is, and I trust you recognize that staff and stakeholders exhausted the search for alternative sites. Finally, I trust that you'll not let another generation of kids in Alpine grow up without adequate parkland. I really appreciate you guys taking this action to continue to move this project forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the final caller.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Lippett. Thank you for letting me speak. California and San Pasqual tribes sued Poway and housing developers over the handling of tribal remains and uncovered cultural resources. That is no different than what is going on here. This is ironic when you consider that the tolerance for ignoring CEQA seems to have begun with the state. Counties and cities simply ran with the exemptions, any that would allow them to ignore any environmental impacts that were discovered through analysis. One of the things that is never mentioned, so the unincorporated communities that had forced upon them, whether it was battery energy storage facilities or or large solar industries or turbines, wind turbines. They ignore the fact that we have raptors, the smallest of which kestrel of the.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor, this is your district. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I just quickly want to thank staff. God only knows they've been working on this for 30 years. This park was promised to my children by my predecessor, and here we are yet today still trying to build it. We have 0 parks. Anybody who says that they've lived there their lifetime, they're lying. There's no parks. And and by the way, if it were true that the community doesn't want the park, then explain how I won the election. Because I ran on improving parks. So with that, you all voted for it before, and I'm grateful for it. This has been a long, hard, arduous road, but it means an awful lot to my community. The people opposing it live in a gated community across the street.
Oh, it's this one.
Of this park. They're not the people that are going to be using it. It's all the other families that will be using it. And they were upset that there was picnic areas. At one time, and staff can speak to this, they talked about putting a sidewalk in. And that community didn't want people walking by. So they killed the sidewalk. Now we have parking spaces because you got to get there somehow. But it's a game changer for everybody that lives in an apartment. And there's a lot of people that live in apartments that would like to have it. By the way, there's a community garden. And staff put together an incredible, I hate to use the term, AI drone that drives through and gives you a bird's eye view of everything they're building. And if you're more interested, I'm sure they can get it to you. But it's absolutely fantastic. I don't care for every element, but I understand there's somebody in the community who does like that element. And this park goes way out of its way to make sure that there's something for everybody at that park. And while we can piecemeal about what we like, what we don't like, it is an incredible gift to our community that we've waited so long for. So thank you for your continued support. And I talked an awful lot, but it's a pretty special place.
Great.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor in a second. Thank you both of you. Happy to support. I did actually look pretty carefully at the diagrams and what they're building, and I thought it sounded fabulous. It looks great. So thank you for the team for all the work. Continue to try to bring recreation and open space to folks throughout San Diego County. It's really important. Thank you. With that, let's vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, fantastic. So it is 12:25. We'll be back here at 1:15. Thank you.
Board is in recess until 1:15 this afternoon.